Welcome to episode 32 of Last Turn. I'm Bart, and today I'm joined by a special guest, Evan. It's not a special guest, it's here every week. How are you doing, Evan?
Wow. I mean, I was pretty good before, but I thought I was under the illusion I was special.
Well, you're a special guest, but you're not a special guest.
Okay,
you know?
I feel better now.
Yeah, I think...
Good save. You almost blew this entire thing right at the beginning, Bart.
Yeah, the way you save sort of a mess up is you say a thing, you unsay it, and then you just say it again, and you're good. That's socializing 101.
It's like with a flash drive, like you try to put it in, flip it, try to put it in, flip it a second time, and then the third time it'll go in.
Yeah, it's I mean, the thing about flash drives is that they're like four-dimensional. So you're when you're flipping it the second time, you're actually doing something. You just can't see it.
Right, it's in the fourth dimension. It's time-based.
You're flipping it
Stephen Hawking talked all about this. May he rest in peace.
Yeah, that's what he told us. Told us about flash drives. So today we're going to tell you about flash drives. We are going to review Witchwood. So the format we're going to use is our light set review. This is something we did last time for Cobalt and Catacombs. We want to pick out our favorite cards in each class and tell you about them.
Oh yeah, only the special flash drives.
Yes.
Not all 135.
Yeah, so it's kind of tough for us to record the whole full set review for Frozen Throne, so we're going to try something different. We liked the format last time. So
yes. It's not that we didn't do it.
Yeah.
Right, one time we did do that, and we found out what it's like, and we found out that there's a lot of cards that are not worth talking about.
Yeah, there's a lot of cards that are not worth talking about, and somehow you can just, one can just say stuff about them, and that takes time, and time is money, friends.
It's definitely fun to get to cover everything, but I think we're gonna essentially cover everything by covering our favorites, and we're not gonna have the same cards. We each prepared independently.
Yes. Yeah, so we picked out 5 neutral class cards and 2 class cards each, independently of one another, so we'll be sharing our lists with each other at the same time. And, you'll get to hear our takes and maybe some disagreement or, what we think is the strongest. You'll also, by omission, get to hear the sleeper hits that we miss. So,
yes.
Like Corridor Creeper.
This is our opportunity to be very wrong. Preparing for this, I had already been certainly excited, but now I have to know. I want them to release a set today because I want to know how wrong I am about these cards. And now that I put so much time into it,
yeah, there's just some cards. I don't know. I felt pretty overwhelmed looking at all the neutral cards because I think that there's been some amount of complexity creep. So just even thinking about the neutral cards has been a little challenging. I'm sure I missed something.
Yeah, I actually think one theme is draw a blank from your deck. I have at least one of those on my list, but there are also a bunch that aren't. There's a 4-mana 2/4 draw an elemental from your deck.
Oh, yeah.
That's, I don't like that card. It's not on my list. It's not good enough, but that there's a good deal of that effect in this set. And I think that's kind of a complex effect because it makes you think about all your other cards in your deck that meet that requirement.
Right. We also have 2 keywords this set, which is a lot of keywords for one set.
It's very overwhelming for someone who played World of Warcraft. Speaking of myself, of course.
Of course. So let's get into it. So let's start with the neutral cards. Do you want to share your 5 and then I'll share mine, or shall I share mine and then you share yours? What do you think here?
Those are 2 completely valid options. I feel like I usually go first, so why don't you start us off with this? Sure. The Witchwood set review.
All right. So of the neutral cards, these are in no particular order. I'm going to start with Countess Ashmore.
Okay, that's a great place to start.
Yeah, I think that this card is just obviously very powerful. So it looked good, on its front face. The first, within the first 5 seconds of seeing the card, I thought, oh, this is like Curator. Curator's a card that saw play. This will probably see play too. Um,
Hmm.
especially in a world where decks are maybe a little bit optimized and quick because there are fewer sets to draw cards from. So, like, immediately post rotation, these sorts of value cards can be really, really good. Curator
Hmm.
saw very wide play in Ungoro, and I think that this is actually in some ways more flexible because it allows some classes to get spells, which is really cool. Um,
Mm.
and I think it's a little bit less restrictive because there are more death rattles. There's a bunch of rush minions now, and there's like less life steal and less rush, of course, but there's lots of death rattles. So I think that every class will have access to a reasonable pool of cards that this can get. Also, a different pool of cards, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, this is a really interesting card, and the fact that they pumped out a ton of really good rush minions, like there's a lot of them in this set, definitely makes this card better. And I completely like what you said is exactly my thoughts with regard to Curator. That card was good. It's probably good. This is one card that is pretty good health to mana cost. Obviously not ideal, but it's putting 3 cards in your hand.
Yeah.
That's really good, and it's certainly it's much more impactful than something like Elise if you're trying to think of like a long game card that does something for you. Like Elise doesn't actually put anything in your hand immediately, and then Countess you can sort of angle it to give you like Tyrion frequently or something
Right.
really devastating or important much more frequently. So that's really, I think I agree. This card's slick and it's going to be messing people up. It's not necessarily as like much for a control deck as a Curator because that like had taunt,
Yeah, taunt. Right. Well,
but Countess is going to be great in like tempo for at like top end and control.
Yeah, so I mean, Curator saw play in mid-range decks as well. The original
That's true.
Murloc Paladin decks, and I think that this could slot right in the same decks. For much the same reason. But also,
Definitely.
like so, it does not have taunt like Curator, and that is a really big deal because Curator bought you like a turn, traded for something, and got you all those cards like right away. Ashmore is more of a threat though, which is potent.
Yeah, exactly.
So that could be that could make it a viable pick in a control deck. It also depends on the pool of cards that are available. I mean, in something like Warlock, this can fish up like a Void Lord or Rin, your one of your spell stones and nothing.
And I can't get Mistress Mixtures, that's for sure.
Sadly, yeah. Um,
Actually, can get a Rat Catcher, which I like that card.
mm,
But yeah, no, Countess is looking like it's going to see some play.
I think so too. So next up is another card that I think we both like a lot, which is Muck Hunter.
I actually did not. He did not make my list, but I am still a really big fan. He was like my number 6.
Yeah, I think he's really strong. As far as the maybe I missed something. I mean, we'll talk about that, but he looked like one of the strongest neutral minions to me, and actually one of the best minions in the set. So I think uh, I think this gives so neutral rush is really interesting. It gives some classes access to an effect they don't normally have, which is the ability to interact with the board from hand. Um, so if you think about Spiteful Priest, that was a deck that kind of like had really, really limited options for doing that, whereas most other decks in Hearthstone can do something like that. Like, you could play a weapon and paladin attack, or like, any of the other weapon classes, or you like in Priest, you just play a spell, like in like
Mm-hmm.
a control Priest deck, or a mage you can play like Frostbolt or something. But Spiteful Priest kind of just had like Duskbreaker, and if you had something with more than 3 toughness, it was definitely living the turn.
Mm-hmm.
Cards like Muck Hunter and Scaleworm, which is another card on my list, will
Mm-hmm.
allow Spiteful Priest, or these sort of like heavy minion decks to interact from hand without sacrificing sort of their deck's gimmick.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Muck Hunter is sweet. It's just my reason for not including him was I didn't really see the deck he's going to be in. It's so hard to predict this coming meta because we're losing. That's another reason I'm so excited. This only happens once a year. This is not. This is much more awesome than one new set coming out. Um, and so it's really hard to predict, but usually, like, you gotta be either pretty, like, you gotta have this really excellent plan, to beat all these aggro decks that are going to happen when the sets rotate, and I just don't see what kind of deck Muck Hunter necessarily goes in, because I think if you're playing Spiteful Priest, you might actually not be strong against 2/1s. Like, I
That's
do
true.
think there are classes that would, like Rogue would have the weapon, but then I don't know if Rogue wants to spend the turn playing Muck Hunter.
Mm.
Like, maybe it does. If you have a Lights Justice, or a Candle Shot, then this card gets a lot better. It's just, it doesn't seem like these 5 mana dudes that don't like go face and blow people up have ever worked out in those
Mm.
decks. But this is a whole new world.
Yeah.
This is Rush City.
So I think that this one's a little bit different because it is so it's really overstated for its cost, and it has a ton of toughness.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that it's not going face right away, it'll still leave behind like a big body. It's not like some of the other rush minions, which are kind of just removal spells.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that makes it a little stronger, but I do agree that something like Priest is weak against the 2/1s. Those could be more impactful against that deck, kind of depending on the other stuff they're running. Then again, Priest tends to have 3/4s and Tark Reapers and 1/3s and stuff. So it's not like the 2/1s are going to trade for minions unless they're both sort of getting in there a lot of the time.
I mean, yeah, it'll also depend on other decks. Are there
Of
decks that
course.
are playing like stuff to pump 2/1s?
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. If you have a deck
how
that's sort of
threatening is a 2/1 in the opponent's deck?
Yeah, that's true. No, it's definitely true. So it could or it couldn't, but I do think that in that deck, maybe more so than Muck Hunter, although I do think that card's sort of good in that deck. Um, Scaleworm is the other card I had mentioned.
He's on my list.
Yeah,
Scaleworm that looks more like a card that is like definitely gonna get into the decks that want to do what they would want to do with Muck Hunter, and maybe they'll play both.
yeah,
That seems great. Turn 4 Scaleworm, turn 5 Muck Hunter. That sounds excellent.
yep.
Because Muck Hunter kind of only is ever going to give them 1/2/1. Now that I think about it, but Scaleworm is sweet.
I think so too. So it's yeah. I mean, Scaleworm is like it's very clearly a strong card. There's also sort of dragon payoffs that are leaving, but we still have Duskbreaker, which is still an amazing card. So
Mm-hmm.
it's worthwhile for Priest to play dragons because Duskbreaker is so good.
Yeah.
So Scaleworm is just another good card for that deck that is definitely strong enough. It's not like you're running synergy for synergy's sake here. This card is like legitimate. 4 mana 5/4 that can kill a minion right away is quite good. So
Yeah, paying 4 mana to deal 5 damage is like premium in a lot of classes.
yeah, it is.
If you just think about that, this thing really sticks out. There almost looks like there could be some kind of cute dragon beast hunter deck. They'd put some
Mhm.
dragons in hunter. That could be
Yeah, I
cute.
saw
He
that.
is a beast.
The poison dragon looked interesting.
That card is good. And then, like you mentioned, Tar Creeper. This thing shafts Tar Creeper.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
that's one of my key notes about is this card good? Like, consider this other really good card and how it treats this other really good card.
Yeah. So this card, that to me just looks good. The another card I have on my list, I have Baku. So
Okay.
I was thinking about Baku, and even if it doesn't have a deck right away, and it's almost impossible to see these kinds of decks. Like
Mhm.
this is just such a weird archetype of like this kind of deck restriction is not something that we had ever really seen before, and it comes down to like, is the card pool available? And the answer might be no for now, but 2 sets from now, the card pool could be here.
Mhm.
However, enhancing your hero power in some classes, particularly warrior, is really good.
Yeah.
So the games where you play Justicar on 6 in Warrior and the games where you play Justicar on like 15 are really, really different games. So, the ones where you play Justicar on Curve, it feels like you can't lose unless you're just getting completely pounded.
Mhm.
So I think that if there is, but the thing is, like, so this is clearly a strong effect. It has some potential, particularly in this one class. However, this class doesn't really have the card pool to support it for now. So this set, Warrior, just got a ton of aggressive tools, more
Mhm.
so than any control tools that like a Baku deck would want. So it's hard to say, but I do think the power is there.
Yeah, I do not have Baku, but the sad thing that you pointed out, not only is Control Warrior not getting much. If it's getting a card, it costs 2 and it wouldn't be in the Baku deck.
That's
Because
true.
there's Warpath.
Yeah, so that's that's unfortunate. And I mean, there's like there's good odd costed warrior cards that I can think of, like Shield Slam and Shield Block and Brawl and all that stuff. And like obviously there's examples of cards it could play. It's just not clear to me that there's enough of them right now.
This is something I obviously thought about a bunch too. I didn't think that Baku, like if people were going to be playing Warrior, ultimately it looks like it was going to go this aggressive direction.
Certainly,
and that was really where Baku is going to live. But it's also cool that Odd Cost Warrior would be able to play the quest.
Yeah, that is cool.
It could be Taunt Warrior. You still get to use Tar Creeper. Reckless Flurry is also a much better card with an upgraded hero power for the beginning of the game.
Oh yeah,
that card's like kind of borderline. And then conveniently they allow us. In the past, you would not have been able to do this with Baku, but now you can use Fiery War Axe.
Well, oh yes, the buff. The buffs just continue. So I mean,
also that.
So I did not think of Taunt Warrior. That's a really interesting point. So it really depends. Like if it depends on how powerful this hero power is, which I think. Yeah, I mean, against an aggro deck, if you're getting potentially 4 armor a turn, and your primary strategy is to play taunting minions, that is like brutal, and that could be really hard to beat, and that might even be better than an aggressive deck. But we'll see.
There's some big finishers available still at odd costs as well. You can just play like Ysera and win that way.
Yeah, totally.
Still like really, really strong. They still haven't printed any removal that kind of blanks it in any way, efficiently enough. So that could definitely be a thing, and I would be very happy about that because that would be very fun.
Same here, yeah. And it's also not I think one of my favorite parts about this deck, like the cherry on top, is that it can't run Dead Man's Hand.
Yes, we don't even need to think about that.
Yep, that's amazing. That's something that's kept me away from Control Warriors because I just think that card's not that good. I don't want to play it.
Can't play the Death Knight, but ultimately that just means I wouldn't have to craft it. So
yeah, that's
I'm going to count that as a win. Actually,
I think that's fine. though. I don't know. I'm not a huge Warrior Death Knight fan. So although I guess I don't know. The last card on my list here is Voodoo Doll. Voodoo Doll is slow, and I don't think it's for every deck, but I do think it's a decent tool in Warlock. It does 2 things. So Warlock is a deck that like doesn't necessarily mind slow play and slow cards, and it's something that would be happy like you stick down something overstated and then it sort of marks it and kills it later, but it also can set up a Defile. And I think I think the combination of setting up a Defile and killing something big is like it turns like your 2 mana partial board wipe into a 5 mana 2 card full board wipe, and I think that is fine because Warlock doesn't really care that much about throwing away 2 cards on something like that because it just always has a full hand.
Yeah, well, so I had not thought about it in Warlock. That's a really good point. I just really liked the card when I saw it. The kind of thought it was too mediocre in most decks, but
yeah, I think so too.
Just plunking with a 1/1 like can be fine in Warlock. That's going to screw them over. That's hilarious. It's great with Dark Pact.
Oh yeah, yes, that too.
But with Defile, so if they have like a 3/3 and another 3/3, and I play the Voodoo Doll and played on one of them and played Defile, I think only the one would die because I think Defile would resolve before the Death Rattle goes on the stack, right?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
It would deal 2 to each of them, and then 1 would die. It's not like the Death Rattle will happen after the first Defile effect to keep it going. I don't think that's how it would work.
I completely agree, but if they have a bunch of 2 power minions, and you play Voodoo Doll on their like 4/6 or something, and then you Defile, you can end up killing the two. I'm sorry, not 2 power, 2 toughness minions. You can end up killing the 2 toughness minions when you otherwise would not have been able to.
Oh yeah, no, that definitely it's still insane because it always sets you off that first
Yes.
trigger, which is just nasty. No, that I had not thought about that. I just for a second had a brain fart on how it would play out because it's Hearthstone.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's my list. I'd love to hear yours.
I'm so glad you had Voodoo Doll because I do really really like that card. It's just I hadn't really thought where it might live, but that's a good point.
It's a funky one.
You can conjure it up with Countess Ashmore.
Yeah, that is true. That's pretty sweet.
So I have her and Scaleworm, which you already mentioned.
Hmm.
I also have Nightmare Amalgam.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that was a card. That was my number 6.
So yeah, he's there was a lot of really cool dragon stuff. We already mentioned how strong Scaleworm is. So this guy's gonna help you play Scaleworm, and he's a 3 mana 3/4, which is great. There's also never really been like a good 3 mana dragon. Having something to fill out your 3 slot is often something you might be having trouble with in a dragon deck. So he kind of is good for some non-obvious reasons, I think.
Mm.
Um, and he's also great elemental. He could possibly also be a good enough Murloc.
Yeah, possibly.
So and he's neutral, so like this is gonna provide a lot of dragon power to all the classes, all of which can also use Scaleworm. So
Yes.
I have a feeling that there's gonna and Priest is losing Cabal Talon Priest, so there's gonna
Mm.
be sort of they still have Glimmerroot, but they still kind of like avoid. You want a minion that survives the Duskbreaker on turn 3. Sadly, you can't play Nightmare Amalgam on turn 3 and also have it be used in your hand to trigger Duskbreaker, but
Yeah, sadly.
ultimately, many games that will be a line you can take. So he just kind of it looks like he'll be obviously good in that deck, which will probably be a deck, and then if there's any other dragon decks, they're almost definitely gonna want this guy.
Yeah,
Um,
he seems good to me too. Stats are there, and sometimes you're just going to need a critical mass of synergies, and he can help you get there.
yeah, it would be funny if he's actually used for more than one purpose in a single deck. We'll see if that happens. It is, I guess, one weakness is if like a Murloc deck is really popular and you're playing dragons and people are playing Hungry Crabs, they're still going to be able to get you.
Definitely.
That was a
I think
point
that's
you
like
brought
a
up.
little bit of balance. I like that.
No, that is a really good call because
Yeah,
this card does seem like a little bit like it could be too dumb, but the crabs shore that up pretty well.
I think so.
Um, so I also have Witchwood Grizzly, which is also a beast.
Mm.
And so this is a 5 mana 3/12 taunt.
Oh, that
Um,
guy.
and it has Battle Cry, lose 1 health for each card in your opponent's hand.
Mm.
So if your opponent's hand's empty, it's a 5 mana 3/12. Opponent's got um, 4 cards, then it's a 5 mana 3/8, which is Ancient of Blossoms,
Hmm.
but for 1 less mana. And Ancient Blossom is pretty good. So I think if you are consistently playing it as an Ancient of Blossoms or better against aggro, it's actually going to be really good.
That's true. Yeah, so it is potentially a lot of stats for not a lot of mana. It does require, I think in against some decks it's going to be just a complete blank.
Yes, this is true, but I guess like if you're playing like a Taunt Warrior deck, you would want to otherwise have the advantage in that matchup if you can.
Yeah, it's also yeah, that's true. It's also odd mana costed for that deck.
We're losing Ali Armorsmith.
Oh, that's a beating.
So this might be because once again Ali Armorsmith, like it's a great card always, but it certainly is much more of a beating against an aggressive deck,
Oh yeah,
and Grizzly is very much the same. When you need your 5 mana taunt to be really good, that's when it'll be really good against those aggressive decks. They might be down to 3 or 2 cards, and then this is going to just be a huge amount of health. They can play Muck Hunter into it, but that's might not even do half of what it needs to.
totally. Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, I agree with you that like when it needs to be huge, this thing is just like gigantic monster. And that's really good. So that could be it kind of does depend though, because I mean one of the strongest and fastest aggro decks I think we can expect to see is just Call to Arms deck.
Mm-hmm.
And that deck also tends to run Divine Favor, but it's also possible they just don't have it or they haven't played it yet. So yeah, I mean this looks like a good card to me. I'm willing to say that.
Yeah, I think overall you should be getting an advantage out of using this card against a Divine Favor deck. If they're like spending 3 mana to just improve their hand.
And it's definitely not just like the only. It's not like the only taunt your deck can afford to run, but luckily we still have Tar Creeper, and that card is just unbelievable. So
yeah.
Also, this is a discover target off Stonehill Defender.
This is true.
I think that card gets a little better around rotation. I was sort of wondering why that card stopped seeing play, since it was like that was in our like top 5 list for Ngoro, and I guess part of the reason maybe is that just other cards got better. But yeah, so this Stonehill Defender might see play again after rotation if that is the case.
Yeah, there just isn't like you could count on getting certain legendaries that made Stonehill really good.
That's true. Yeah, that was also a factor for sure. Go on.
But I like the Grizzly, and then the last card I have is Marsh Drake.
Oh yeah, I looked at that one too. I was wondering if you were going to mention it.
So this is a 3 mana, and we're still in neutral, of course. 3 mana, 5/4 dragon with Battle Cry. Summon a 2/1 poisonous Drake Slayer for your opponent.
Yeah.
So 3 mana, 5/4.
Right.
That's really good. That's Woolly Thoktar from Magic the Gathering. But giving your opponent 2/1 poisonous is bad.
Oh yeah.
So when I look at this card, I at first was like, this doesn't really look worth talking about. But if you're going to be playing Dude Paladin and consistently having guys out, and maybe also pop in Light's Justice, which will be better if other people are also playing a bunch of 1 health minions, this guy is really not fair. And if you can get that swing to happen, all of your subsequent turns are going to be very snowbally. It can kind of be like a vicious fledgling type minion. If you're playing Light's Justice, maybe you're playing Candle Shot, or maybe you're just Rogue. I feel like just being a Rogue makes this card pretty nasty. It is weak to taunt, though.
Yeah, so I agree with that. I was sort of wondering about that. Like the problem with this sort of cards, and actually Muck Hunter, is the just Tar Creeper.
Mm-hmm.
Like that card just makes me really hesitate. I mean, so Muck Hunter, can like just crush the Tar Creeper, so it's less of a thing.
I think that's fine, actually.
Yeah, so that maybe not super amazing against him. But a card like this where you give him a 2/1, that could be really terrible. It's also not like a super amazing card at the top of the deck. But I think the deck that would play this is not trying to play off the top of the deck. They're trying, because if they're at that point they lose. They're trying to just play the best stuff in their hand as quickly as they can.
Yes, exactly. Getting that tempo going, getting that snowball going from the early game with really cheap, effective minions, and then possibly also some weapons. Plus, so I was pretty borderline between this one and Muck Hunter because they're very similar.
Sure.
And I had actually already gotten pretty hyped about Muck Hunter, but what put me over the edge of picking this one is actually also a dragon.
Yeah, that's true.
So Dragon Paladin seems like it could be a thing. One of the cards that I'm going to talk about in Paladin benefits from having a dragon in your hand. And if you play that into this, it's going to be very, very, very good for you.
Yeah, that's like the bingo box. It's just the random Paladin Dragon synergy with no support, but I guess it has a Marsh Drake. Because prior to this, there's like Worm the Templar.
Yeah, that I had to double check if that was rotating or not, because I was like, if that's not rotating, this might finally be. Oh.
When I saw the new Paladin Dragon synergy, I knew for sure it was rotating because there was also Dragon Consort, which is just like also gone from the past.
So that one we're not going to miss because there's Cobalt Scalebane.
That's true.
That card is great in Paladin. That's definitely a reason I don't give two hoots about that card you just said. I already forgot the name. Dragon Consort.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, yeah, that card's been gone for a while, but no, I know you're right. It's just, yeah, that's true. So I also, we'll see. So the Dragon Synergy card in Paladin sort of also stuck out because it's something that, Wild could potentially use, although I don't know if that kind of deck would be anywhere near as powerful as just a regular old CTA deck, but we'll see.
That we shall.
Shall we move into classes?
Yeah, so that was all the neutral stuff. Definitely excited to play some counts with Ashmore, so it seems like it's going to be very fun.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited in general. I think Rush is really going to change the way Hearthstone works, so I'm excited to see how that'll shake out. So first up is Druid.
That's because we're alphabetical around here.
That is true. It's also just the order that the cards are in on playhearthstone.com because they're in alphabetical order.
And also in Hearthstone.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. It's also in Hearthstone proper. So why don't you start off with Druid?
Oh, thanks, dude. He's such a sweetheart. Here, for you, I have maybe a curveball. I mean, I kind of think overall Druid is not really getting much at all.
Completely agree.
So what I went with is Witchwood Apple.
Oh yeah, so because I'm a sweetheart, so you're gonna give me a sweet, right?
Yeah. So these are tasty apples for you.
Sure.
Hungry for apples. So there basically is like a theme of cards. Witchwood Apple is 2 mana spell. Add 3 2/2 Trends to your hand. Do you happen to know if it's spoiled if those cost 1 or 2 mana? Bart?
I don't know.
I've been assuming they're 1 mana because the Trents on Force of Nature have 1 cost. And
really?
The Trents from all those cards are 1 cost minions.
Yeah, so if these were 1 cost minions, that would change my valuation. Let's see. We're gonna go to the internet.
Oops, we should have known this beforehand. I didn't realize I was assuming.
They're 2 mana. They're 2 mana.
Okay, so either way, that's not good. This card isn't really that good, but the thing about it is it puts 3 cards in your hand.
There's a bunch of synergy for that.
Yeah, so there's some interesting things that can give you a lot of defensive durability, and I don't really think that's going to be very good. But if it is, the games where you play Witchwood Apple like turn 2 or 3 are going to be the ones that are like much better. So that's why the cards were so bad, and then I had to kind of go with 2 that are like, if this strategy is good, then these will be good.
Sure.
And my other card is Whispering Woods.
Yeah, that was on my list also.
That's a 4 mana spell. Summon a 1/1 Wisp for each card in your hand. So that's like on turn 4. If you've got 5+ cards in your hand, then this is actually quite a lot of tempo, and that can really put you really far ahead. If you played a Witchwood Apple turn 2 or 3, then this could actually just fill your board up quite a lot. And then there's so one of the reasons that this strategy is really bad in my mind is we're losing Mark of the Wild.
Oh, Mark of the Lotus, you mean? Well, Mark of the Wild also, I guess. Well,
you're right. You're right. Sorry. We're losing Mark of the Lotus. We're losing Mark of the Lotus is what I meant to say. And that's also what's actually happening. And Whispering Woods and Witchwood Apple are both way better with Mark of the Lotus, and we're losing it. But we do still have Power of the Wild, Savage Roar, Branching Paths.
That's true.
Would probably also be in the decks that use these 2 cards, and Evolving Spores, maybe?
So yeah, I mean, adapting a bunch of 1/1s is actually pretty good, but Lightfuse Stegonon is a 3/4 attached to it, so
yeah, no, it's that one's definitely a stretch, but just having some Power of the Wilds and Branching Paths in your deck could totally be fine.
Yeah, I think with Mark of the Lotus, this would stand much more of a chance. So Whispering Woods was definitely on my list also. I kind of agree with you. I think that Druid was a little bit underpowered. There are a bunch of cards here that look marginal to me, but none that really stand out. Yeah. Except, I think maybe the strongest card here is actually Bewitched Guardian. So Bewitched Guardian looks to me a lot like Twilight Drake with Taunt.
What is that card?
5 mana, 4/1 taunt, battle cry, gain +1 health for each card in your
Yeah, that is Twilight Drake. Taunt for one more
hand.
mana.
Yes. So it costs 1 more mana, but from the way that we've seen, Druid got a bunch of cards in the last several sets that changed the way that slow Druid decks worked, and they made them look very different. So Jade Druid went from being sort of more aggressive and mid-rangey and, even running Mark of the Lotus to running a ton of cards that just give it 1 billion armor. But also, with that change came a change in its overall game plan where its hand for most of the game now is pretty full. Mm-hmm. So, it used to just be that their hand was full after turn 10 because they cast Ultimate Infestation and drew their whole deck. But now, it's a little bit more full throughout the game since they're playing singular cards that are, doing really strong defensive things and just sort of waiting it out and getting hero power value, etc., etc. So Bewitched Guardian fits really well into that strategy. And I mean, even Warlock went as far as to run, in the past, in Handlock, they went as far as to run, Sun Fury Protector with their Twilight Drakes, because getting that massive taunt out was just such a door closer against aggressive decks.
Yeah, you're right that this is definitely, the other best card in Druid, and it might be better than the two things that I mentioned. The reason I hadn't picked it is because, I thought of Druid of the Claw.
Oh, sure.
And, if you have 5 or fewer cards, then you may as well just be playing Druid of the Claw. And, if you're, accelerating and stuff, I don't know how frequently turn 4 through 6 you're actually gonna be getting something bigger than a 4/6.
That's a really good point. So it might be that Druid of the Claws just ends up being better, especially if you're accelerating on curve and you can get it out early. Because, you get this out early, it's, just actually worse.
Yeah, so. That's there's, but we know there's no Jade Blossom anymore. So the way that Druid is gonna play might also be, like you said, fundamentally more different and full of hand stuff.
Yeah, you might end up running both. Because I mean, another thing Druid loses, which is really big, is Jade Guardian, the elephant.
Mm-hmm.
It is Jade Guardian, right? That's what it's called.
Yeah. And
okay.
Overall, just the whole strategy of playing taunts and armor and waiting doesn't work as well without Jade Idol. That's another problem with this guy.
Yeah, Ultimate Infestation does get worse when you don't have an infinitely sized deck. But I mean that deck is still I think it could still be there. It just needs the top end. Splinter Graft is another card that's potentially decent because thinking about it, I mean, I know we're sort of going over our number now, but thinking about it, it's actually just a threat generator. Even if you just get a 10 mana 10/10 in your hand after you play your 8 mana 8/8, your opponent has to clear out the 8 mana 8/8, and then they know the 10 mana 10/10 is coming too. So that could be not really. That could be an endgame. That could be enough of an endgame, especially if you get it out early.
Yeah, if you can play it on a taunt or something like that, then that's going to be pretty sweet. It's just if your opponent's just been beating you down with Murlocs, then you play an 8/8, they're cool, and then they kill you.
Yeah, that's the thing about it, is that it's so slow. So I think it's metagame dependent. But moving on to Hunter.
Sounds good. You go face.
So I had a bit of a tough time. I think I'm not very good at evaluating Hunter cards. But so there's a bunch of cards here that look okay to me. So I'm going to bring up the first, which I think is obviously powerful, which is Houndmaster Shock.
That is my first pick too.
Yeah, I mean this card's just dumb. What was the other one? Charging Rhino, is that what it's called?
Thunder something, maybe. Now I can't remember.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever. The 5 mana 2/5 that gives all your with charge, it gives all your beast charge. Yeah, your beast can go face with that card, and it helps Hunter put on pressure to face. But this card, but sometimes it also just helps them trade and secure the board. Because the thing is, you don't need to be going face and attacking them immediately for being able to attack the turn you come out to ultimately need to get more face damage. If you can just clear out their minions that they were going to use to trade, especially against a minion deck, then that just means that next turn you go face, or you keep the game locked down and continue to go face over the course of several turns. That's what tempo is all about.
Right.
This card is hugely tempo positive.
Yeah, it's stat wise, it's exactly what you would want. It's just more or less a 4/5 for 4. It's roughly a Chillwind Yeti, though it's a persistent effect. You'd rather have more butt if possible, and there it is. He's got that booty.
Right. This has the stats you want on this kind of effect, where as long as the card's on the board, your other cards are better, and the fact that your other guys get rush helps to protect this thing.
Yeah.
Um, and this, I mean, this is also pretty insane with the Death Knight.
Oh yes.
I mean, that's expensive, but if you can get that going, you're probably not losing. Though if you're getting your Death Knight going, the game usually looks pretty decent anyway. So I thought that this card was just obviously really strong. I mean,
For
being able
sure.
to lock down the board with this is really good, and also some beasts have good death rattles.
Yeah, if
As for
if you just play him on curve, he's going to be insane, and then also he scales in the late game if you happen to get to higher, like 8 mana, you can play him and another guy in the same turn. So it
yeah,
just seems excellent.
so as for the next card, it's kind of tough. Like I said, I think there's a few possibilities here that I see as cards that are potentially playable, and I'm going to go with the wacky one of Rat Trap.
Ooh, okay.
So I don't think that this is going to see play in a hunter deck that's looking to beat down. I think that that's just not where it belongs. But I was thinking about it a little bit in like Spell Hunter, and imagine your opponent's on coin. This thing like that you could, if they don't play around it, they could trigger it really early. And so what do? They just they play around it and they don't trigger it early. But what does that mean? It might mean that they burn mana. Like it could be that just the threat of this card, if it actually does see play, is enough to take your opponent off some amount of tempo over several turns, like such that it ultimately buys you a turn.
Yeah, that happens with Secret Mage.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's like the hidden reason why. Part of the reason why secrets are so good is they force your opponent to play differently. It's really hard to see that when you're playing a game of Hearthstone because you don't see their hand. But when you play against Secret Mage, you know that you're like, okay, well, my opponent just set down a secret. I'm on 10 mana. I can't just jam my Ultimate Infestation. I have to play this other card first. And like, what did that do? That delayed your Ultimate Infestation a turn. So this kind of card could have a similar effect because if you just get a 6/6 on turn 3, that's going to be an easy game.
Yeah, and the point is that it can delay the ultimate infestation for a turn without being counterspell. It could be a potion of polymorph and still delay the ultimate infestation. So you could play the explosive trap turn 2 or freezing trap, and then they still play inefficiently because they're afraid you're going to get a 6/6 rat out of nowhere.
Right. So this could be really good, especially in something like Spell Hunter, which is like surprisingly good at clearing out the board.
Mm-hmm.
So against a deck like Call to Arms Paladin, this could, help secure the game from parity or definitely just push it when you're ahead, acting a little bit like a standstill.
Yeah, you kind of like if you just clear their stuff too easily and they look at their hand, they're like, well, now I want to play my whole hand, but if I do, there's Mr. Rattington.
Yeah, imagine they Divine Favor its turn 10 and you have one of these things down.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get them.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get the 6/6, and like at that point it might not matter as much because they'll just get a much bigger board, but it's not like you don't have other cards in your hand. So
yes, and then if you're on the aggressive and they're on their back foot, the only way they might be able to survive is by playing that third card.
Yeah, definitely. So to me, this card looked like it had some potential, even if it's derpy, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's an investment, and it's only 2 mana. Like, if you can get a 6/6 off of 2 mana, like, it's good.
Yeah, for sure. I think the payoff is there.
I can see that. I have Wing Blast as my other card.
Yeah, that was on my short list. I ended up with a bunch of cards, and I wasn't sure. I just picked Rat Trap now, moments before I talked about it.
Well, you gave a very convincing discussion of it, so I'm a fan of that now. I was really only thinking that card made Professor Putricide better.
Oh, it does, yeah, for sure.
The main time it's going to come up is off of him, but no, I could see it maybe work. Spell Hunter proved to be better than we expected.
It's true.
But Spell Hunter would also be pretty stoked to have Wing Blast, because Spell Hunter wants to be able to clear really efficiently. They can usually kill one minion with their weapon or something like that. So this is going to sort of allow them to always have the opponent with an empty board. And it's not like one card to compare it to is Dragon's Breath from Mage. But that card was just so bad if you had to pay the full cost. Paying 4 mana for 4 damage is really not that bad a deal. Shaman does that all day. Granted, they get a minion, but then when Wing Blast is good, like let's say your opponent, and that's why I think Wing Blast is pretty legitimately good. If it's really early game and your opponent gets too much out, or they get they stick this critical idiot. If you can just make one thing die, then you can deal 4 for 1, which will hopefully save you. So it can be a huge tempo swing, which is how Face Hunter wins.
Yep, yeah, I agree with that. This card was, it was on my short list. I think it's strong. It makes Candle Shot pretty good. Makes them a lot better. It makes your Eagle Horn Bow a lot better. Both of those cards are in Spell Hunter, and even in a tempo-based Hunter deck, you're going to be able to just make your trades with minions, and that could, imagine trading your Dire Maul into something like, then it kills it, and then you play Wing Blast on something big, and then you develop a big minion. Like if you get the board back from that, that's really good because those decks are just ultimately trying to get the board and keep it.
Yep. Not only is it good in Face Hunter, yeah, but it will also just be sweet in Spell Hunter or Secret Hunter, any of those.
Right. Yeah. So it's potentially going to see play.
I think Hunter's in a pretty good spot right now. I think their cards are actually pretty nice quality, and they're not losing that much that's that important. And aggressive decks just tend to be pretty nice on rotation. So I'm expecting to see Hunter do pretty well.
I hope that I hope there's a good deck that runs Toxmonger and Stone Tusk 4. That's what I want.
That sounds toxic.
It should also sounds bad.
Use Dire Frenzy to put 4/4 Stone Tusk Spores in his deck while it's doing that.
Right.
I want to give Carrion Drake an honorable mention.
Same. Yeah.
We had mentioned this card before. So Carrion Drake is a 5-mana 3/7 dragon with Battle Cry. If a minion died this turn, gain Poisonous.
Yeah, strong.
So that's sort of a similar trigger as Wing Blast, which 4 mana, 4 damage to a minion, but if a minion died this turn, it costs 1. So this is triggering off a minion dying. A 3/7 Poisonous is quite horrifying.
That's filthy. Yeah, no one like poison is a. They repeatedly showed us, like time and time again, they showed us how expensive poison ought to be, and like look at what is it, Webweave? This was a card that they said prior to the release of Knights of the Frozen Throne. Team 5 was like, this was just one of the strongest cards in the set at 4 mana, so we had to make it 5 mana.
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking their word for it, but I can see how that would be true. It's like really, when your opponent makes 2 1/2 poisonous minions for 4, like what do you do? Like what do you play? Like you're just kind of at their mercy.
Yeah, and I mean, we've all been on the receiving side of, Malfurion, who makes 2 1/2 poisons into an empty board. Like, oh my god, it just feels terrible.
Mm-hmm.
You know that you're about to get left behind. So having something big and poisonous, something really, poison's really good.
He's just like huge. He's still not even that bad without the effect going off.
Yeah,
he's a dragon, so if you're gonna play, like, you could turn 4 play a Scale Worm.
Yeah, that's true.
Into this, that would be pretty exciting. I'd be totally hyped for that. But also, he's really good against. He's like inherently good against taunt. Also inherently good against rush. Like you wouldn't want to play your Muck Hunter and attack this thing.
Yeah, definitely not.
There's like just if decks are going to sort of slide more into playing minions to solve their problems, this guy's going to get stronger. It's definitely a strong card. It's just Houndmaster Shaw and Wing Blast much more obviously go into the kind of deck that Hunter would play, but Carrion Drake's definitely something.
It is a card.
It's definitely insane in Arena. Well, yeah, we can definitely agree on that.
For sure. I think that card's going to be disgusting in Arena. So moving on to Mage. How about you start us off on Mage?
I'll do that. What magical things do we have here? Looks like there's some good stuff, kind of. Mostly Book of Specters.
Yeah, I agree.
So, Book of Specters is 2 mana, draw 3 cards. Discard any spells drawn. So, it says draw 3 cards on it. That's the first huge appeal to me, and that's also a pretty strong thing to do. It's only 2 mana, but you can't get Fireball or Frostbolt off of it. Certainly not getting Ice Block off of it. Nope. But lately, Mage has been performing really well with Secret Mage, which is it's got a lot of minions in it, and it's very much just play minions kind of tempo deck. So that if that was a thing, it could still be a thing, and this card would be excellent in it.
Yeah, so we're seeing a bunch of cards in Mage that are sort of reward you for having and playing minions, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think Book of Specters is a really amazing payoff. It's not clear to me that it's better if you're going to be playing the minion deck. It's not clear to me that it's better than Spiteful Summon or Pyroblast. I think we'll have to see.
Yep, that would also be really good.
But I agree the power's there, and I mean I think in like Arena, Book of Specters is going to be quite good.
Yes, that's definitely true. See, the thing about Spiteful, like, you can play Book of Specters Mage with, like, 2 Fireballs if you want to. 2
That's true.
Frostbolts. Like, you can have some of the best face damage in the deck.
Yeah, I mean, even if, like, as long as if this card is averaging 2 cards drawn, then it's still going to be a good deal for its mana. You think about Shaman gets that deal unconditionally, 2 mana to draw 2 cards, but they have to basically pay 4 mana because they overload twice. So if this card is consistently drawing 2 or more, then you're in good shape, and that's like a pretty easy to calculate that.
Yep, if you got this and 8 other spells, it should be around there. So if you're using 2 Fireballs, 2 Frostbolts, 2 Book of Specters, and 24 minions, it's going to be a little tough, but you'll have a really good Book of Specters, and you don't have to say goodbye to your Fireballs and Frostbolts.
That's true.
Which you would have to with Spiteful. So there's something to that, I think.
I agree with you.
I also think it's worth noting that Book Spectre says discard any spells drawn, so you can keep Frostlich Jaina, which is a hero card. You can keep Alaneth, which is a weapon.
Yep, that's true.
And then the good buddy, this is probably the other card you picked, is a legendary Archmage Arugal. So this is a 2 mana 2/2. Whenever you draw a minion, add a copy of it to your hand. So the dream that we're introducing is play Archmage Arugal for 2 mana, pay another 2 mana for Book of Specters, and get 6 cards in your hand.
Oh, that's so greedy. It would be insane. So that's a deck that's like, you want to run a lot of really cheap stuff that's going to do things and like just going to be incidentally more powerful. And actually, in that deck, what card would be really good is Kelesith. Wait a minute.
Yeah, so Kelly doesn't fit there. Kelly would fit with the Spiteful version.
Yeah, so that's my criticism of Arugal, though. I think that's a legitimate one. Is that in the deck that wants to play him, because like staking a 2/2 is not an easy trick. Like, because you're basically going to want to stick this in untap, and that's not going to happen at that many points of the game. And I guess you can stick him in Book of Specters, which is pretty cool, and that might be enough. But yeah, I feel like in the deck that wants to do that and can actually get value out of it, you're going to need to be able to empty your hand really quickly, and that deck might just want to run Kelesith. Yeah, so it's not clear to me. It just like I feel like the deck this wants to be in has a better option at 2.
I mean, but then you're not using Book of Specters anymore.
That's true. Yeah, that might actually just be better. The 2, and then the 2 running these things and also being able to run Frostbolt and like maybe even the Raven if you're running Fireball or something.
Yeah,
enough. Or Pyros.
Yeah, there's like the 2 having a 2 slot is definitely good in aggro deck, and some classes you'll know like they don't have any way of killing this guy if I just jam him turn 2.
Yeah, that's true.
Other games you won't have anything else to do, and the fact that you play him turn 2 makes them need to play defensively that turn instead of getting to develop. And sometimes they won't have it. So like he actually seems like he'll just be fine sometimes on turn 2 because that's how the game played out, and then otherwise you don't need to wait that long. If you can get a Book of Specters with him, you could maybe even be running an Arcane Intellect.
Yeah.
There's not many other good draw effects to go with him, though, sadly.
Yeah, so I agree, though. I do think it's a strong card. I'm wondering, like, it's clearly a powerful effect. It's not clear to me whether this is more powerful than some of the other effects available. Like, because you could be playing your Archmage Specters deck with burn spells, or you could be playing your Kelesith Spiteful deck.
Yeah.
So it's not clear. We'll see. I think that's one of the most interesting things, though, is that like maybe both decks are good, and then you could just pick the one you like more.
That would be pretty neat.
That would be.
There's actually another angle to look at the Archmage from. the copies he makes did not begin in your deck, so Leyline Manipulator will reduce their cost.
Oh, that's true. And also, I mean, it looks like a good way to potentially do a minion heavy mage deck is with elementals, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So if you're going to suddenly put 3 to 6 cards in your hand, or I guess, yeah, some number of copies in your hand, making them all cost 2 less could actually be really slick.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the, we have Bonfire Elemental, which is Azure Drake, so this could be for elementals.
That's true, and then also another, just sort of not talk about a new card in particular, but I guess these 2 cards, if you're going to be playing that minion heavy deck, elementals is a pretty legitimate way to go. Particularly now, I think in Mage, Mage used to not be that stoked on elementals, partly because why bother? It didn't get enough payoff out of Blaze Caller because it had Firelens Portal. Why need to set up something that actually I can already do that? But now we're losing Firelens Portal. And if you're going to play a minion-heavy deck, you're going to be wanting for interaction, immediate interaction in cards that just deal damage. And Blaze Caller does that really, really well.
Yeah, it's a good card. It's seen fringe play, periodically.
So that could be a way that this all plays out.
So, yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that's interesting. There's a lot of possible angles on this deck, and it's funny to see. It's interesting to see how it will look if it'll even if it'll even come to fruition. So as far as Mage, my first was Book of Specters for sure. I sort of waffled about the Archmage, but ultimately didn't go with it. What I went with was Arcane Keysmith.
That's my honorable mention.
Yeah, so I thought, seeing this card the first time I saw it, I thought, wow, that's kind of expensive. It's Discover. It's not like you're just playing one from your deck. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized, Discovering is good. It's something that since they came up with that effect in Agoro, it's become evergreen. They have it in a lot of sets, and it's just been really good. So, by the way, Arcane Keysmith, 4 mana 2/2, Battlecry, Discover Secret, put it onto the battlefield. Put it into the battlefield. It's not onto, it's into. So it's really weird. And this card is it's a fair amount of mana and a fair amount of cards. So you're getting like 1.5 cards, like a 2/2 and a secret. And 1.5 is whatever. I'm basically making that number up. It's hard to actually quantify that sort of thing, but I think it's somewhere between 1 and 2 cards. And the amount of mana this effect is worth is 4.5, right? It's somewhere between 3 and 5, depending on how you value the 2/2.
Sure, I'm with you.
So I think that you're getting a good deal on mana, and you're also getting a good deal on cards. And if you're playing a deck that has a lot of minions, then this could be the sort of thing you're looking for, because then it would just give you access to effects your deck does not have, and that could be really good. And so a lot of the Mage Secrets are kind of tempo-oriented or minion synergistic, like Frozen Clone or Explosive Runes.
Yes. You said a lot of the things that I was thinking about when I looked at this card that made me want to bring it up. I mean, the fact that it's not from your deck is actually, good. The fact that they have no idea what you're going to get. They have no idea what 3 you're going to look at.
Right.
Makes it so hard to play against this. We already talked about how a secret will just get you this bonus value. And that's what this card can do. You can be playing 0 secrets in your deck, but just play 2 Arcane Keysmiths to get some of that secret tempo. And then, if you think about it, a secret costs 3 mana. So if you add 1 to that, you got her. She'll give you a secret and a 2/2. So is a 2/2 worth 1 mana? Usually that's that's Enchanted Raven. That's a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah, so that's where I came down on. Yeah, that's more or less where I came down as well.
On the other hand, playing a 4/5 might just be way better.
Yeah, so in that case, so that's the other thing. It's at the end of the day, you zoom out and realize it's a 4 mana 2/2.
Yeah, it could be, if you're playing Keleseth, that makes it more appealing. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it gives you some reach in a deck that's very heavy minions. I think if you need to somehow, I mentioned a Book of Specters deck that's using 24 minions, this when it comes down to it, this might actually just be fine in there. But um, I start thinking about like Water Elemental
Spellbreaker.
and yeah, I wind up thinking of a bunch of cards I'd rather play it for.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. It's like unclear. It looks good. It looks like an okay arena card for sure.
Definitely a great card to play in Arena. I'd love to play with Bran. That'd feel good.
Oh yeah, someday. Um, so next up is Paladin.
Yes.
I'll start us off.
Do
So
it.
I want to start by saying that I think Call to Arms was enough good Paladin cards for a while, and we're seeing the results of that.
Yeah, a lot of this was like kind of even difficult. This is one of the harder ones for me to evaluate, actually.
Same.
But a lot of it mostly was just like, this is just very medium versus Call to Arms.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's fine because Call to Arms, you just play a deck with 2 Call to Arms and like 28 absolute trash cards, and like you do fine.
You would do great as long as some of them cost 2. As long as some of that trash is 2 mana trash, you're ready to go.
Right. Yeah, some Knife Jugglers, Divine Favors, and just like weapon. Yeah, anyway. So I think the first one that was like obviously good to me, but still might not actually make it into the Paladin decks is Glass Knight.
Okay, yeah, I have him on my list. He's good.
Yeah, so I mean 4 mana 4/3 Divine Shield is already a good deal. Being able to restore health to get the Divine Shield back, that might seem like it doesn't matter that much, and it might end up not mattering all that much, but Rallying Blade is rotating, so True Silver Champion could come back in style.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the decks that are around. I mean, it might be that the earliest aggressive Paladin decks that are beating down against other aggressive Paladin decks are running Light's Justice to get an edge, but it could be once the metagame settles down, the more mid-range decks come out, the control decks come out, that True Silver Champion becomes a little better, and then that makes this card pretty cool.
Yeah, I was not planning on including this one, actually, and then I realized, wait a minute, Rallying Blade is rotating out. And Medivh Valet as well. I think that makes this card a lot better, and like if you compare it directly to Silver Moon Guardian, it's just strictly better. These are really good stats. 4 mana, 4/3 with Divine Shield. And then also normally if you're playing an aggressive deck, so let's say you're the super aggressive Paladin and you're playing against another Paladin deck and they play the Glass Knight. I mean, you just want to ignore it. Like, you don't want to be attacking into a 4/3 Divine Shield when you're the aggressive deck. But if you ignore it, that's how they can get the value out of it.
Yeah, then they get to control when the shield pops, and if they do that, the shield just like never really falls.
As long as they have like one random thing, and it says the text is whenever you restore health, gain Divine Shield on Glass Knight. So it doesn't say whenever your hero restores health. It says whenever you restore health. So if you play any card that heals health to anything, including like your Zombie Chow dies and it heals your opponent, that should still give the Glass Knight Divine Shield. So there's a bunch of different ways that you play Earthen Ring Farseers and heal one of your minions. It'll trigger off of Lifesteal. And then also True Silver Champion, you mentioned, will give him his shield back. So he actually seems like a pain against aggro, because like there's just no good way to attack into this. Like if you're the aggressive deck and then you need to attack into this, your opponent got what they wanted. That's exactly what you wanted to get. And then against a control deck, there's once again not really any good answer to this card. There's no efficient way where you come out on top. This always just absorbs a lot. You want to like Siphon Soul this since a 4-drop.
Yeah, for sure. It can be a real pain. But on the other hand, it's also a 4-drop, and I think Spellbreaker does something like necessary for Call to Arms Paladin, and Call to Arms is also a 4-mana card. And then you'd really just, and like if you're running True Silver Champion, like whoa, you're really glutting up that 4 slot in a deck that's trying to play Divine Favors.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that there's going to be a shift to 1 or 2 Light's Justice, and room will be made for this guy. Because he's pretty legit.
Even if you can't trigger him again, I mean, a 4 mana 4/3 Divine Shield is good.
Yeah, you don't like if you do also run 1 or 2 True Silver Champions, that's like scary enough for your opponent to like always feel like they have to get rid of it.
Yeah, that's true. So we'll see. That's an interesting one. Next up, this was hard. I still am not really even sure what to pick for my second card. I sort of like thought a lot about Prince Liam. I thought a bunch about Hidden Wisdom in the same way I thought about the Rat Trap. I thought about Bellringer Sentry. I think I'm going to have to go with Cathedral Gargoyle.
That's my second, so we actually have the same two Alan cards.
I mean, Gargoyle, like right now, you know, the random dragon paladin support, it's the bingo box. It's just like not something that's ever really come around. But, you know, someday it might. We also have Nightmare Amalgam and the Scale Worm, is that what it's called?
Yes.
Yeah, Scale Worm in neutral. So there's a few more. And then there's, of course, you know, the dragons that exist, like Primordial Drake and Cobalt Scalebane and, you know, all those sorts of things. So we are seeing a dragon package that's like largely in neutral, and if we see some nice class dragon or class dragon synergy in addition to Cathedral Gargoyle, this is a really powerful card. I mean, this is like Righteous Protector plus Shielded Minibot potentially.
Right, you just named two extraordinary paladin cards.
Yeah, both of those cards are unreal.
Like I have somewhere, you know, like 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5 for each of those. Like excellent paladin cards, and this is like conditionally better
right.
than Shielded Minibot, which is ridiculous.
Those are words to say.
I know, and you know, since he's a 2-drop, you get one turn to draw it. It's not like you have to have it in your opening hand.
Or Call to Arms. But then Battlecry doesn't trigger.
Yeah, sadly it sucks. It's not amazing off Call to Arms, but it's not like it's not Acker's Veteran. It's definitely worse. Yeah, it's definitely better than that. But yeah, so there's the Amalgam on turn 3. Like you can play this guy into Amalgam, or you can play this guy into the 5/4 that I mentioned, and give your opponent a 2/1 poison, and then attack their 2/1 poison with your 2/2 Divine Shield taunt.
Or your Light's Justice.
Or your Light's Justice that you play turn 1. So the potential like tempo swing that this guy gives is nasty, and you know this kind of 2/2 Divine Shield, I know from experience it will bludgeon a control player quite a bit, and it's also just inherently that taunt Divine Shield combo extremely good against aggro.
Yeah. Yep. I think the rest of the cards are sort of a lot more questionable.
Yeah, I wanted to mention Paragon of Light.
But it's so hard to do that.
Yeah, well, in case we didn't mention, Cathedral Gargoyle is a 2-mana 2/2 Battlecry. If you're holding a dragon, gain Taunt and Divine Shield. That's why we're comparing it to Righteous Protector. I feel like we've forgotten to say some of the cards, and we apologize to our listeners. You can visit us on Twitter with LastTurnHS and complain.
Yell at us.
It's LastTurnHS.com, and you can complain there. Just going to turn our failure into a self-promotion. I think that's what you're supposed to do. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, that's what we do. That worked for PewDiePie. Go on.
Worked for P. Diddy. Paragon of Light is a 3-mana 2/5, and it says, while this minion has 3 or more attack, it has Taunt and Lifesteal. The reason I like it is because a 3-mana 2/5 is actually, like, pretty fine. Like, that's a 3-mana 3/4 roughly distribution. And if you play it, like, what does your opponent do? Like, do they let it sit there? Because then you might give it 1 attack, and then suddenly it's a huge pain. A 3-mana 3/6 taunt lifesteal, like if you give it +1/+1, is really nasty. So does your opponent attack into a 2/5 on turn 2 or 3 or 4? Like, that's also not a really good line for them usually. So I think it can put your opponent in a really awkward spot.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the upside's potentially there. I think it needs more cards, though, because right now the only really consistent way to turn it on, not the only way, the only consistent way, is like Direwolf Alpha.
Prince Keleseth.
Okay, sure.
That's actually half as consistent, but it's actually pretty cool that you would be able to do that. I mean, the thing you think about with Paragon of Light is Smuggler's Run and the 2-mana 1/1 Outfitter.
Or Grime Street Enforcer. That stuff's really
I know, it's so sad. Like, it's so, because those cards look so good. Maybe, or like they're the kind of cards you want to be good. and
Yeah.
this could have maybe helped a lot, but they're all gone. Um,
Alas.
but this you can play Prince Kaliseth and Acker's Veteran.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, Acker's Veteran's that's a really good point, actually. I forgot about that one. And that this would, if you were running, I feel like you just Kelesith is way less strong than just playing Call to Arms and 2 drops. But
there's
if you're
that.
running Direwolf Alpha, then that's basically going to be able to turn this on at least some of the time. And Acker's Veteran could also fit in that deck. That's a good point. I forgot about the Veteran. So no, it's not the only. So Direwolf is not the only consistent way. That's a good point.
Thank you. And then also just like if there's enough aggressive decks and enough rush and stuff like that, having a taunt lifesteal gets a lot better.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's this might sound like a little bit Magical Christmas Land, but I don't think it's that ridiculous. Blessing of Kings.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. That's not that ridiculous. That card is like that tends to see that also has seen a lot of play in the past year since Aggressive Paladin came around, and like there are even some Call to Arms decks that are running it. So
I'm running it.
We could see that. Yeah, it's a good card.
So if you're gonna play this on turn 3, your opponent's gonna really like potentially have to invest in killing a 2/5, which is like that doesn't feel very good. I think the only other class that can just play 3-mana 2/5 is Hunter. Like this is a pretty good stat layout, all things considered.
Yeah, I mean it does the trick. I think it's like, yeah, the 3-mana 2/5 is already okay. I mean the vanilla cards like that just haven't seen too much play. But it's still like depending on the metagame, still pretty strong. And if you give it Divine Shield and Taunt, I agree, it's good. Or is it Lifesteal? Which is it?
It's Lifesteal.
It's Taunt and Lifesteal.
Yeah.
So it's not Divine Shield. Yeah. So it's Taunt and Lifesteal. That's still potentially really good. So we'll see.
Yeah, it would have been cute if it was Divine Shield and could get it back or something like that.
Oh, that would have been really silly. Yeah. You play like a rush minion between like the Direwolf Alpha, and then you trade it, and then you get it back.
Though I guess it would just be like a permanent Divine Shield the way it's written.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a while.
Yeah. So, next up we have Priest. Start us off on Priest. Priest's a little weird.
Yeah. So this is a different experience than Priest had the past 2 sets.
Like, sort of. I don't know. There's a bunch of cards here that are potentially okay.
I mean, I feel like with Knights of the Frozen Throne, there's things like Shadow Reaper Anduin, and then
sure.
Kobolds and Catacombs was obviously just another slam dunk for Priest with things like Psychic Scream. I think that there's a distinct absence of slam dunks, or at least that was my feelings on Priest. My first pick is Squashling.
Oh, I was looking at that card. It seems like that could be such a nightmare.
So Squashling,
a nightmare before Christmas, even.
Oh my, well played. 2-mana 2/1. It's 2-mana 2/1 Echo. So that means the turn you play it, a copy of it will perpetually be added to your hand every time you play it thereafter until the end of the turn. So you can play it as many times as you can spend 2 mana. And it also has Battle Cry, restore 2 health. So that it says just restore 2 health, so that means that you're going to get to pick a target. So on turn 2, it's a 2-mana 2/1 that heals 2 health. But on turn 4, you can get 2 2/1s and heal 4 health. Turn 6, you can get 3 2/1s and heal 6 health. And I think all of these deals are actually pretty good. Like, every single turn I think about, like, this could just, like, your opponent has a bunch of, like, turn 8, your opponent has some minions out. You can make 4 minions and heal 8 health to yourself. Like, that is pretty good. That's a pretty good start for evening things out. It can also be cute.
Can it heal minions?
Cute with the Ashanai Soul Priest. You can get bonus damage in with her using your Squashling. So I feel like one of the best Priest things to do is gonna be Big Priest, which is why I'm not sure if anyone's gonna care about Squashling, but it seems like a good card.
Yeah, I mean, Spiteful Priest also, but that might shift to running Kelesith now that it's losing Nether Spite Historian.
Oh, right, and Spiteful Priest, of course. Yep, could.
But if it doesn't run Kelesith because there's some other 2-drop I'm not thinking about, then Squashling could be really good in that deck.
It just seems like a lot of value, and it could work in
Mhm.
a control deck too.
It's true. Yeah. I was thinking a lot about Squashling for much the same reasons. I think like it felt like it was going to be yeah, I guess in a control deck like this is actually a lot of health. If you play this 4 times, you get 8 health and make a bunch of 2/1s. Like that's a whole lot of value.
Exactly,
So
or in turn two, it could just be a speed bump. Like your opponent's getting too much; they have an acidic swamp ooze, and you're like, "Uh oh, I can't do
right.
anything about that." You can just throw Squashling out there, and he'll take care of it for you.
Yeah, the flexibility on Echo cards is really amazing because I mean, even for 6 mana, it's like this sort of very similar to the 8 mana card, but just costs less. 4 mana, same thing. So it's like that's pretty cool. I like the flexibility on Echo cards a lot. So and this is a good one. I mean, you're not sacrificing that much to put Echo on this card, and I think that makes it really good. It seems like with a lot of the other Echo cards, you are. So
Mm-hmm. It's also like
um,
silly things like you could Squashling you could trigger multiple Northshire cleric things. It's not like if you restore 8 health once, you only draw one card. Squashling could potentially be a lot sillier than that.
yeah, or you could if you have a board, you can like make a couple trades and then just like, heal your guys back up. That could be like a nightmare in a tempo based matchup.
Yep, he seems like he could actually work in a lot of different priest strategies.
Yeah, flexibility is really really valuable. I like it.
Um, he'll make walls fall and mountains crack, I'm sure.
What's your second priest card?
Coffin Crasher. So this is a
Ah,
6 mana, 6/5 Death Rattle. Summon a Death Rattle minion from your hand. That's the Death Rattle is summon a Death Rattle minion from your hand. So one inherent thing is that you can Coffin Crasher into Coffin Crasher, which is just going to be a hilarious thing when it happens. But it's a pretty big body, and it replaces itself when it dies. That could be really, really good. Like this could be like a much dumber piloted Sky Shredder potentially. There's some really gross death rattles you can cheat out, like Obsidian Statue. Obsidian Statue's always been relegated to the Big Priest deck, but honestly, it's really just like a good card. Like if you just pay 9 mana for it, it often is still really devastating. Barring they don't have Spellbreaker. But if you can cheat that out, that's going to be dumb. That's going to be a
as we know.
huge swing, and there's a bunch of other really great Death Rattle cards. This could actually even another card that is potentially good is the Quest in Priest, and that cares about summoning Death Rattle minions, and not only will playing the Coffin Crasher himself, but also his trigger will also trigger the Quest.
Right. Yeah, I think it's I agree. I mean, I think like on as far as stats go, it's like a decent set of stats for its for 6 mana. It's like not going to stick around that much, but killing it is not something your opponent wants to do. So the fact that it has a lot of attack is really nice.
It is unfortunate that it doesn't have taunt, and you kind of might be playing a 6/5 new like that doesn't do anything turn 6 when your opponent's
Yeah,
got a board out and they're going to smack you in the face. So how good he is going to depend on how efficient the aggressive decks are and how well Priest can keep itself alive.
definitely. Yeah, I think it's a good card though. You could also just go infinite and get a Coffin Crasher out with your Coffin Crasher.
I almost see it working in Big Priest, like
Yeah, maybe.
hitting a 5/5 Coffin Crasher off of Shadow Essence. If you have the Obsidian Statue in your hand, is still really great.
Yeah, that's totally fine. And in some situations, that might even be better than just getting the 5/5 Obsidian statue.
It
So
potentially could be. So he could even work in that deck.
yeah, it seems good. That card was definitely on my list. The other one I had on my list. So there's actually a bunch of cards here that I think are like worth mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
But the other one I had on my list, just because I think it's potentially very powerful, is Lady in White.
Okay, you like her.
So, I do. So I think a 6 mana 5/5 is kind of weak, and it's something you have to draw. But if you were running a deck that had cards like Tar Creeper and Tortillon Shellraiser and Northshire Cleric, and maybe also just running combo, then this card could be really good. So Combo Priest is something we've seen a bunch over the past year and Year of the Mammoth. It's sort of come up sporadically when the metagame allows for it, especially when it gets really greedy. The deck can just come and win games that it totally shouldn't win. And this is another tool in those decks because it allows the decks to be a little bit more minion heavy, and also, they don't necessarily have to draw the combo to win. Then they could just draw Lady in White play and then just play a completely unfair game of Hearthstone.
I did not think about things like Stonehill Defender and how degenerate that is.
Oh, Stonehill, yeah, that's gross. Give me a break.
Creeper.
3 mana, 4/4 Stonehill Defender. Yeah, Tar Creeper.
Your opponent will just be looking at a 7/5 that you paid 3 mana for.
Yeah, and Shellraiser, these are all cards that are, decent. They're not bad. Shellraiser is just going to slow the game down so you can draw Lady in White. It seems okay.
Maybe Stormwind Champion will slide in there.
Could be. Wait, why?
Because
Stormwind Champion? Are we thinking the same card?
Stormwind Crusader? The 4 is a 4 mana 2/5 charge.
Oh, the 2/5 charge. Yeah, Stormwind Champion's the 6/6 that gives all your minions +1%.
Oh yeah, he'd just be a 6/6. Not him. The 4 mana 2/5 charge would become a 5 power charge minion for 4, which is pretty spicy.
Totally. So Lady in White, by the way, 6 mana 5/5. Battlecry, cast Inner Fire on every minion in your deck. Weird templating, but that's the word for word what the card says.
I mean, it looks like it says that they clarify in parentheses it's making their attack equal to their health.
Yeah, I'm glad they clarify. I just wonder if there is a more elegant way to template it, because it seems like saying both Inner Fire and having the clarifying statement is going to be more words, but maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, I think it helps with the flavor of the card.
Yeah, sure.
So I'll take it. I think it makes it
that's fine.
A bit more fun. It would be funny if if you have 20 minions in your deck when you play her, and then later you play Yogg-Saron, he casts Inner Fire 20 times. It'd be funny if that templating actually was relevant in some way like that. Or if you had a Violet Teacher out and you play her, you just start getting all these 1/1s or draw a bunch of cards off of an auctioneer.
Yeah.
If it actually interacted like that, that'd be funny.
Yeah, then the templating would make a lot of sense.
But I feel like it's not going to, and it's just Hearthstone.
I agree. So, honorable mention: Vivid Nightmare for Leroy OTKs.
Yeah, I think you mean Charged Devilsaur OTKs.
That is what I mean. You're right. But yeah, still. So that was I think that card has potential to be degenerate.
Yeah, no, that is very funny. That definitely has some kind of combo nonsense written all over it.
Yep. Copy effects are strong, and people are willing to pay 5 mana for them. And this one is less flexible, but it's way cheaper.
And the 1 health can potentially be good.
Yeah, depending if it's a Death Rattle or something, and you want to trigger it.
And if you're using combo, you may using the Inner Fire combo, and make a minion's health really high, and then make its attack really high. I'm pretty sure the copy will still maintain the high attack. As far as copying goes. In Hearthstone, it seems like it's always exactly what's on the board.
Yeah.
Plus whatever else. And in this case, whatever else would just be 1 health. Which shouldn't detract from the attack. 1 strike against Combo Priest, though, is we lost Potion of Madness.
That's true.
That card would definitely... Oh, you know how I realized that? I was looking at... let me scroll down to find this card. Marsh Drake, the 3 mana 5/4 that gives your opponent a 2/1 poisonous.
Oh.
Can you imagine?
Oh wow, that's filthy. My god, take all that downside, turn it to upside.
There's a couple of things that you could see it's good they rotated that card out now. No wonder they waited till this set to print that card, because if they had done it a set earlier, that we would have had this going on, and that would have been really dumb. And getting a 5/4 and also killing your opponent's best guy is pretty absurd.
Yeah, it's not that easy to design a card game because you have to think about all those edge cases. I didn't even consider that, but the first time someone did it to me, I'd feel like just the game was terrible.
I mean, for every one that I noticed, I'm sure there's 10 that I didn't.
Oh, sure, yeah, same. Next up we have
Rouge.
I don't know.
I mean, they definitely got at least 1 card.
So yeah, I'd like to hear your opinion here. But I'll go with I feel like none of these look super amazing to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I just picked basically random cards, but maybe I missed something. So the first that I had was Cursed Castaway.
Yeah.
This seems so derpy, um, but it is like kind of just a chunky removal spell for 6 that draws you a card. Uh, on the other hand, what is it? Starfall and Druid never really saw play, but I think Druid had other options.
Yeah, this is true.
And this is a little bit more, it's different. It's not exactly Starfall. It draws a particular kind of card, and it can also potentially leave a body behind. And I mean, even if it's a 5/1 body and your opponent hero powers it away, taking them off 2 mana could be good.
Yeah, the fact that it's got that body attached is great. It can get Van Cleef. Like, that's the kind of card it can get.
Yep. Totally. It can get Minstrel or it could get Vilespine.
Those are excellent cards to have in your hand.
Definitely. So the fact that so this card looked decent to me in sort of a tempo based deck. And as for the next one, I don't really know. I feel like Blink Fox is okay.
I think the card is really good, actually. I think that this is easily like a slam dunk for Rogue. Just getting, because like Swashbuckler isn't really a card. A 1 mana 1/1 isn't really a card. A 3/3 is. I mean, compared to Curious Glimmerroot.
Sure, yeah, this is basically Curious Glimmerroot.
That's where I'm coming from on this. So yeah, Rogue has a bunch of cards that are really caring about playing cards from your opponent's class or from another class, and yeah, it sounds like you weren't too hot on that either. I'm not. But if that is a thing, they're going to be playing Blink Fox.
Yeah, I mean, I think even if they're not, even if it's not a thing, I actually hadn't even considered Curious Glimmerroot. This is basically that, but like, it's better or worse. I don't know. It's slightly different, but it's approximately Curious Glimmerroot.
You always get a card, but it's not always a card someone would play.
Right.
Always gives you a card that somebody would play in their deck because your opponent's playing it, but you might not always get it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we forgot again. Blink Fox is a 3 mana 3/3 beast. We apparently both have it on our list. 3 mana 3/3 beast, Battlecry, add a random card to your hand from your opponent's class. So it's
right. And Cursed Castaway, 6 mana 5/3 rush, Death Rattle, draw a combo card from your deck.
Yes. So those are the two cards Bart mentioned, and I think that Blink Fox is really great because just having this body turn 3, like Rogue doesn't usually have this kind of tempo, and it just replaces itself.
That's
like
nice.
Playing this into Falderai seems like a fine way to play a Miracle Rogue match. It seems like a fine way to play Tempo Rogue, and it also seems fine if you are into that class card shenanigan thing. This effect is inherently good in Rogue because Rogue needs just cards in their hand to trigger combo. Even if you get something useless, like to the 0 mana shaman card that gives your totems 2 health, that's still like Blink Fox did something for you. That's like kind of like getting a dud coin. Now you can set your combo off. Now you can make your Van Cleef bigger. So that's why I'm actually, and it's also a beast, which is cute. But I'm pretty sure this is a big pickup for Rogue.
All right, I'll take that. Yeah, I think you made a convincing argument. You had me at Glimmerroot.
Yeah, once you find that comparison, okay, I see this, Fox.
Right. So what was your next card?
Yeah, Rogue was tough to evaluate. There's a lot of really medium feeling stuff, and I'm not even too stoked about Wanted in all caps with an exclamation point. But it does seem like a strong card. So
wait, it's deal 3 damage to a minion. If that kills it, add a coin to your hand.
Yeah, so it's removal, and it's a spell. It's a removal spell. Those are awfully good. It'll give you a coin. If you've ever played Tomb Pillager, you know that getting a coin off of your 4 mana spell can be really nice, or 4 mana play. A unique thing about it that I like is that it's sort of the finisher on something like Backstab, or other rogue cards will say damage an undamaged minion. Wanted is kind of there for finishing off maybe a minion's already damaged. So this can kind of cover part of the process of killing a minion, and follow up on your backstab or something like that. And then, since it's a spell, it can actually be really nasty with something like prep. Like, you could have a game where turn 3 you prep, wanted, kill their guy, coin, Van Cleef. Like, that would be
Yeah,
absurd. Um,
that is true.
and so its synergy with preparation makes it really interesting in Miracle Rogue, and Miracle Rogue really likes the coin. Also, if you could do something like that with Auctioneer, like if you could turn on 7 mana Auctioneer, prep, wanted, and kill something, that's going to be really filthy.
Yeah, I'm glad you thought about it a lot, because when I looked at this card, I did not give it that much thought, but I definitely, like, it had a bunch of cues on it that suggested to me that it was a really strong card, and I just wasn't seeing it. So first of all, like, uh, for this effect, there's so much condition. You know, it's not like it's deal 3 damage to a minion and get a coin, whereas you look at like Flanking Strike, which is deal 3 damage to a minion and get a 3/3.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is like, if it kills it, you get a coin, and it costs 4. So it suggested to me like this could easily cost less for what you're getting, but it doesn't. And I thought about it more and realized if you get the coin early, then that could actually just be really degenerate. If it was like 3 mana, 3 damage, get a coin, that'd be gross. So they want to avoid that situation, so they make it cost a little more. But in making it cost more, they didn't take off the conditional part. If it kills it, get a coin.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these things were cues to me that I was undervaluing this card, and they probably tested it pretty extensively and realized, like, this is the only way we can make this.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, so that could mean it's like web weave and it's not actually going to see play, or it could mean that it's strong as is. But I'm glad that you laid out the prep scenarios with Van Cleef and stuff, because that's not something I didn't go that far. With prep, this is gross.
If it cost 3, it would accelerate you. Now, that would be some nonsense, right?
They couldn't.
Turn 1, the counterfeit coin and prep, they lose their guy, and you play a 10/10.
It's pretty good. Yeah, it's your 10/10 Vile Spine Slayer. Yeah, like I said, it just looked like they had to tune this card way down from maybe where it would have started, which could have been something like 2 mana, 2 damage for this effect, or just 3 mana, 3 damage, add a coin to your hand.
Yeah, ultimately it's really not that efficient when you compare it to Rogue's other damage spells like Backstab, with its infinite efficiency, or Eviscerate. Also, Wanted does not go very well with Eviscerate.
True.
So it's not obviously like I do think Falarai Strider is a better Rogue card. But this looks like it can be pretty great in Miracle Rogue.
Yeah, we'll see. It's not a guarantee. It's not guaranteed to see play. So next up we have Shaman. I'm interested to hear what you have to say, because I think that Shaman has some cards.
Yes, that it does. I'm pretty excited. I kind of am not sure if Shaman's gonna suddenly be a thing now, because we're losing Maelstrom Portal and Jade Claws, and I don't think any of the cards we're getting are nearly as good as those 2 cards.
They're both insane.
What's that?
They're both insane.
Yeah, so it's hard for me to be like, Shaman's back, guys, but that's not what I'm saying. But I definitely do like some of these cards. I do think some of them are really strong. First off, Hagatha the Witch. So this is an 8 mana hero card. This is the 10th hero card they've ever printed. So it's 8 mana. It's going to give you 5 armor when you play it. It's also got Battle Cry, deal 3 damage to all minions. And she's going to change your hero power to a passive hero power. This is whenever you play a minion, add a random shaman spell to your hand. So there's a bunch of things I think are excellent about this card. The Battle Cry is really good. If you played Shadow Reaper Anduin, or Deathstalker Rexar, when you can actually wipe their board when you play your hero card, it is much more devastating. That's when they're really good. That's when Shadow Reaper Anduin was like, I don't even need Raza. Like this is it. I'm getting so much value. My opponent's completely set back, and now I have this improved hero power. That's what you want when you play a hero card. Part of the thinking. Part of your game plan has become, we want the game to go longer, because every turn that passes, I get more out of my improved hero power. So if you're playing a hero card, you're pretty much always trying to make the game go longer, and if you wiped your opponent's board while you played it, you're taking a really big step towards that. So one huge strike in favor for her is the Battle Cry is so good. But really, what I think that makes her a strong card is how well she synergizes with just playing cheap value minions. Which that's something that Shaman is really good at. That's something that a lot of Shaman cards synergize with some of their best cards, like Flame Tongue Totem. One of the best Shaman cards synergizes really well with just playing random value minions. And that's also exactly what works with Hagatha. It's also exactly what works with Death Knight Thrall. So now you're looking at, so this is the only class with both Death Knights, and they actually both work together really well. They actually both want you to just have, Fireflies and Stonehill Defenders and Tar Creepers and just play dudes and stop your opponent from winning, and then start evolving or double evolving. Murmuring Elemental is another card that sort of started to show up in tandem with Jade Claws, but for one, Murmuring Elemental will double Hagatha's Battlecry. You can have her deal 6 with Murmuring Elemental. Murmuring Elemental is also another random, cheap value minion to trigger her. You could also then have the potential to play Murmuring Elemental into Death Knight Thrall and quadruple evolve. It just seems like she actually is the exact kind of card that kind of deck would want.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, so that's interesting. Definitely a minion heavy deck will get a lot of value out of her, but even if you're not super minion heavy and you just have a lot of controlling stuff and and a few minions, this is still quite good.
Yeah, you don't need a super high minion count. It's just like you don't need a bunch of like Ragnaroses. If you just keep playing minions as long as they have power and health, you're going to eventually win because you keep getting shaman spells, some of which will give you minions. There's multiple shaman spells that will give you minions. So that's they printed one that said that there's a 1-mana shaman spell that lets you discover a Battlecry minion. So sometimes you're going to hit that, So that's gonna. She's just sort of gonna be like, once she gets going, there's not going to be any stopping her. I feel like Death Knight Thrall does the exact same thing with the exact same ingredients. And so now you have a much higher probability of actually getting to execute that game plan. It's so hard to play a Death Knight focused deck when you only have one option, but both of them are going to work with the exact same kind of stuff. So that's why I actually think that this is a really, really excellent pickup for Shaman, and we might see the kind of Shaman deck that kind of has gotten cards. I think this is a big, something like White Eyes was not really. It was kind of cute for a slower Shaman deck, but Hagatha is spicy.
Yeah, it does the trick. It gives you some amount of inevitability. It seems good to me. I agree with you. I think that you said basically everything. Random spells can, be garbage, or they could be good. I mean, Shaman has a lot of removal spells. It has a lot of stuff that does damage, and those are going to be awesome pickups. It also has stuff that just empowers your totems, which is going to be horrendous once you've replaced your totem hero power. But that's fine. The wide variance the wide variance in outcomes means that the average outcome is going to be okay, and that's basically what you need.
Not only that, I'm just realizing now, if you kind of have a bunch of things that work with minions in your hand, you can kind of switch off. You can go from Hagatha to DK Thrall or vice versa.
You could definitely play
just
both.
Chain, not only do I think you would want to be playing both, if you play one, you're almost definitely going to want to play the other, but if you get to a point where you're your minions are on the board, they're not in your hand, Hagatha's hero power isn't doing anything, slam your Thrall.
Oh, sure.
Or, you don't have any minions out, Thrall has nothing to target, they're all, you have some stuff in your hand that you were going to play, why not play Hagatha first? So I think that there's a lot of synergy there.
Yeah, it seems strong. We'll see. I mean, it's also, it's 8 mana, but it wipes the board when it comes out, and that's fine. So, I don't know, doing that kind of, changing the order you play them, I think that a lot of the time you're going to end up playing Thrall first and then Hagatha, but that's fine to me.
Yes.
But also, they're like I said, I think that even if you're not running a super minion heavy deck, Hagatha could still be good because the Battlecry is so good, and because, just, playing a 7/8 taunt and getting a spell out of it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, there's a lot a lot of ways she can be good, I think, and fortunately, also my second card that I picked, which is Witch's Apprentice, also goes really well with her. Witch's Apprentice is a 1-mana 0/1 beast with taunt, and it has Battle Cry. Add a random shaman spell to your hand. So that's kind of like what Hagatha herself does. I guess this guy's her apprentice. Haha, very well done, Ben Broad. No, but so this guy is an 0/1 taunt for 1. Not that impressive, but it's going to be a speed bump. It's also going to work with things like Flame Tongue Totem. It's going to be good with Death Knight Thrall, and it also just gives you a card. You're never really going to come out negative from it. It also works with Hagatha. It just synergizes with all of these other things that Shaman wants to do. You can also discover it off of Stonehill, which is pretty sweet.
Right. Yeah, Witch's Apprentice seems good to me. I definitely liked that card a lot when I saw it. It reminded me of Babbling Book. Not being able to attack is kind of a beating, but that could be okay, especially if you have like this late game plan that involves Hagatha, like just having a taunt and being a speed bump or forcing your opponent to use a hero power or something could be okay.
You can also Murmuring Elemental it. Like, it's just another way to make that kind of card more consistent, you know, having more cheap good effects to use with Murmuring Elemental. Like, I'd be very happy to double that Battle Cry, and that's only a 3-mana combo.
Right. Yeah, no, it seems really good.
So what do you have?
It's definitely. So first up I have Ghostlight Angler.
What is that?
Ghostlight Angler is a 2-mana 2/2 Murloc with Echo.
Oh, right. Yes, that looks good.
So this was a really interesting one. I saw this card, and this is like a pretty good deal for Echo. Like, again, you're not paying that much to get the Echo. You're paying like 1 point of toughness, or like between 1.5 or something like that. And it's like this can do a bunch of things, especially in Shaman. So Shaman has always been a class that doesn't mind having random guys because they have Bloodlust.
Mm-hmm.
So like this. It goes really well in a Bloodlust deck where, late game, maybe you're top decking and you want to be able to set up a Bloodlust. Now you can Ghostlight Angler. Granted, it lost Evolve and Doppelgangster, so Bloodlust deck might not be around. Then again, Bloodlust decks existed before that deck did, the Evolve Shaman deck.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be the next iteration is running Ghostlight Angler and maybe even Murloc Synergy. Who knows? So
that's a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, we have Nightmare Amalgam. We still have nerfed War Leader. We still have Tidecaller, which is just like one of the best Murlocs.
Mm-hmm.
We have Rockpool Hunter, which is another one of the best Murlocs. So there's still good Murlocs about. We even have a Gentle Megasaur, which is a neutral card, believe it or not.
Yep, it's actually not Paladin. It can totally show up with this guy. I hadn't thought about how great of a top deck it is. It's like.
Yeah, it's phenomenal top deck.
It's like, well, Doppelgangster give you 3 2/2s for 5 mana, but like this guy can give you 5 for 10 mana, or 4 for 8. Like, there's definitely, like you said, the versatility of Echo is pretty awesome.
And I mean, of course, this is the honorable meme mention, the Quest.
Yeah.
So,
that's
I mean,
true.
I don't think the Quest is actually going to see play at all.
No, it won't.
But, yeah, I think the reward is not there, and Quests are just inherently not good. But, so Shaman already has some other Murloc synergy with, like, Burlock and Ice Fishing, so, like, maybe this will get there. That could push a Murloc-type deck, out the gates for Shaman. The other card I have is Zap.
Yeah, Zap looks good.
Yeah, so Zap is like, it's just so clearly very strong. I mean, what do you compare this to? Backstab. This is less conditional it's less conditional than Backstab, but I do think it's ultimately a little worse.
We're forgetting again.
Right. So Zap is 0 mana, deal 2 damage to minion, overload 1.
So that's why we compared to Backstab. It's almost exactly what Backstab does.
Right. Yeah. So this is pretty similar to Backstab. It's not conditional. So, Backstab can't hit damage minions, but like a lot of the time that doesn't matter. You can just change the order you play cards and like Backstab ends up triggering a combo anyway, and like it's kind of just works out.
Mm-hmm.
So the lack of condition on this like definitely matters. It opens up additional targets and lines of play, and like it might be that ends up being really important. But the big overload one is like that can be huge, especially in the early stages of the game. like where this is ultimately going to cost you 1 mana, but it can set up a tempo swing. You know, you can play this in addition to an overpowered 2 or 3 drop, and that makes it strong.
For sure. It's you know, a lot of the potential tempo there, plus the spell damage. Like, it can be difficult to use spell damage because you got to pay for the spell damage card, and then also pay for the spell. This spell is free. So,
Yep,
you know,
definitely.
like, and Shaman can sort of, like, hang out at 2 mana and be happy, maybe not as much as it used to, but overloading on turn 2, and then hero powering on turn 3 is still, like, often pretty fine. So if you're, like, squeezing the zap in at the right time, the overload, you can make the overload not matter that much. It's also cute with the cards that say, like, whenever you play a spell, do something.
Oh yeah, sure.
There's plenty of 0 mana shaman spells that just do nothing. So it's nice that they printed one that doesn't do nothing. That could help that kind of card be real.
Yeah, it seems. I mean, it's a strong card. It has the obvious comparison to a card that's like really, really good. And Shaman is looking like it could set up a tempo-based deck. So this kind of card in a tempo-based deck is just great. Honorable mention to Shudderwalk and Wild with Jades. That's pretty fucking gross.
Oh man.
so
yeah, I mean, Shudderwalk needs to be mentioned. This card is crazy. This is a 9 mana 6/6. It's not a beast. It's a Shudderwalk. Battle Cry. Repeat all other battle cries from cards you played this game. Targets chosen randomly, of course.
Yogg Saron, Yogg Sarwak.
Yes, this is Yogg Sarwak. Battle Cry Saron.
Right.
Is this card going to be good?
I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, I think it's hilarious with Jades because, like, if you're playing, you know, Jades and Wild in Shaman for some reason, because that's just like what you feel like doing, then you can, you know, a bunch of cards have battle cries that create Jades. That's generally how Jades are made, sort of incidentally off other cards. So here you get to just do all of that again, which can increase your Jade count by a lot. You know, this will re-trigger your Jade Claws. It'll re-trigger the Jade Spirit, your Jade Guardian. Like, all of those things are just going to happen again. So that's pretty cool. I don't really know if this is going to be good. I mean, you also could re-trigger, like, Witches' Apprentices and Burlock or something. That'd be terrible. But it feels like this is way too silly, but maybe it's not.
My assessment of it is usually to compare something like this to N'Zoth. How much can you play this and not die? You know, N'Zoth was really good when it was bringing back Sludge Belchers because you'd play it and then you wouldn't die, and then you'd win because it would get you a ton of value. So does Shudderwalk keep you alive? Well, my first thought is something like Jinyu Water Speaker, but it doesn't work with that because that targets. And that's a big problem with the card being like N'Zoth, is that a lot of the best ways to heal in Shaman, you can't actually repeat them consistently with Shudderwalk. The best thing I could find is actually this card in this set in the Witchwood. It's called Life Drinker. It's a 4 mana 3/3 with Battle Cry. Your opponent takes 3 damage and you gain 3 life. So that was the closest I could find to really healing you. Everything else that's good targets, and that card's not good. So that's not a good sign for Shudderwalk. On the other hand, there are cards like the 4/4 Elemental that summons. It says has Battle Cry, summon 2/3 taunts. There might be some set of taunt battle cries that could add up. One thing that kind of stuck out to me, I actually just thought of the elemental guy, so now I'm actually getting more interested in that idea. Because something I'm fairly sure it should work with is Kalimos.
Yeah, Kalimos has a lot of stuff that like doesn't target, but is good.
Yeah, so that is the one heal to rule them all, and repeating that would be amazing, because that does not target, that's 12 health. And Shudderwalk says, repeat all other battle cries from cards you play this game. I mean, that makes me think it will copy the one you chose from Kalimos. It's Hearthstone, so there's no way to know. But if that's how it works, then I could actually see, that would be a huge step in Shudderwock being good. But it's definitely tough to say. It would definitely be very fun. It is cool that it will repeat Witch's Apprentice, Hagatha Battlecry, Death Knight Thrall Battlecry.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's definitely, like you said, really hilarious and wild. One Battlecry that could be good to copy, Reno Jackson.
No. No, they didn't need that. I guess they did, but that's still awesome. Yeah, it's cool. Like I don't actually. I think this card's way too derpy. But Yogg-Saron look derpy too, so it remains to be seen.
I think this has got some potential. And so this is an example of a card that had to wait for rotation. This would not be enjoyable with Cold Light Oracle around.
No, yeah, certainly not. It wouldn't be fun with it probably wouldn't be very fun with Jades either, but it's not like Jade Shaman was wrecking anybody. So,
but copying a bunch of Cold Light Oracle effects would be really annoying. It wouldn't be fun. Another question about the Shudderwock though. There's minions that have so this Spiked Hogger, right? Spiked Hogger is a 5-mana 5/5. Battlecry, if your opponent has a taunt minion, gain charge. So would Shudderwock get charge?
That could be insane. I don't know.
And if you played a bunch of minions that say Battlecry, get attack, and Battlecry, get Wind Fury, would they all apply to Shudderwock?
Yeah, or I mean, that's really interesting.
Would that just be really degenerate?
Yeah, that could be really hilarious. I mean, I don't think anyone's jumping out of their seats to make a 9-mana 6/6 charge, but that's still really funny because I mean, if you get that in addition to a bunch of other value, then that's kind of insane.
Well, there's also minions that have Battlecry get attack.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's weird. I wonder.
So that there might be a set of battle cries where you just sort of play this slow control deck and then Shudderwock your opponent to death.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's a silly card. I like it, but we'll see. So next up we have Warlock, and I'll start us off here.
Okay.
So I feel like Warlock didn't get a whole lot, but it got some cards that are okay. There's some here that I think are really strong, and I want to start off with Duskbat.
Duskbat. All right, let's do it.
So 3-mana 2/4 Battlecry. If your hero took damage this turn, summon 2 1/1 bats. So this is potentially an absolute monster of stats for just 3 mana.
Yeah, that's 4 power and 6 health for 3 mana potentially, which is unreal.
Yeah, so I think you'll almost never get it for just 3 mana. I think you'll always have to do something else. Most often this will cost 5 mana, but it's still an okay deal. The reason it'll cost 5 being, of course, hero powering, but then you get to, draw a card, which is in addition to doing all this stuff. So I think that is pretty cool. Also, what's the kind of deck that wants this? It's a deck that is trying to beat down. I think a Zoo deck also runs, Kobold Librarian and Flame Imp, which are 2 1-mana cards that deal damage to you. So imagine playing one of those, and then playing Duskbat. That's so much stats coming out on 4 mana.
It kind of makes Call to Arms not look that good.
I mean, I think Call to Arms is just way less conditional than this, and potentially gets a lot of stats, but more stats. But this is really this gets a lot of stats.
This is 4 minions.
Yeah. So, well, it's 3 minions on its face, but in addition to whatever else you might play.
Yeah, the 4 mana play specifically of Kobold Librarian and this guy, Flame Imp, and this guy versus the 4 mana play of Call to Arms. This is
I see.
I somehow forgot about how I could hero power.
Yeah.
So I was this looks so good in those situations, but otherwise, how are you gonna trigger?
Yeah, I was. It took me a while to sort of catch on to how insane this is in terms of the amount of stats you're getting.
Yeah, you're right. It is actually, this card looks gross.
But the downside of it is that they're all beasts and none of them are demons. So I don't think that'll necessarily be the nail in the coffin for this kind of card.
We're losing Crystal Weaver anyway.
Oh, are we? Oh, wow. Yeah, I have no idea when that card came around because it just like, didn't show up until really recently.
I know. Where is that guy from? I'm pretty sure he's One Night in Karazhan.
You might be right. Oh, really? That early? That's insane. I'm looking this up right now. I have no idea. Um,
Yeah, because this Crystal Weaver would be.
oh, he's Mean Streets. Yeah, he's gone though.
There's a good, okay, that makes sense. There's a good
And the
deal of
crystals.
like interesting demons that were much less interesting without him.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, and I that's all right. So then that's actually not really much of a downside at all. So yeah, the Zoo deck will be clamoring for this kind of card.
You can still play Caliphate with it as well.
Ooh, that's really good.
I mean, yeah,
Or you could play the 2-mana guy because he also does damage to you.
Homunculus. Yes,
Yeah.
that's a good point. Wow, playing 5 mana from the monk in this thing is quite an unreal amount of stats. It's going to survive.
Oh, yeah.
2 of them are going to survive Duskbreaker.
Yeah.
I think I don't have that one on my list, but I think it should be.
Yeah, it's really good. Next up, I have Deathweb Spider.
Ooh, okay.
So I think this is probably a little too expensive.
This is the 5 mana dude.
Yeah. So it was between this and Godfrey, and I think Godfrey's kind of cool, but I wanted to go with Deathweb Spider is a 5 mana 4/6 battlecry. If your hero took damage this turn, gain lifesteal. So I wanted to go originally with Godfrey was sort of my other pick, but I ultimately went with Deathweb Spider. Not necessarily because I think it's better, but I think this is a lot. This is potentially a bunch of stats. The 5 mana 4/6 is kind of like vanilla testy, like that's around the vanilla test. Granted, it's not really going to cost 5 mana. It's probably going to cost like 7 mana or 6 mana if you're lucky.
Mm-hmm.
But a 4/6 lifesteal is something that could get a ton of life back. I mean, one of the worst parts of Obsidian Statue when you're playing aggro is that, like, in addition to just you have to trade a bunch of stuff into it, like you're just resetting their health total.
Yeah.
This doesn't have taunt, granted, but it's still going to be able to like gain at least 4.
This is another one that I looked at. I mean, it's got really good stat spread.
Yeah.
And lifesteal is inherently excellent in Warlock. And actually, I mean, if you're going to play Zulok, this guy might bring Defender Vargas back.
Yeah, that's possible.
Because this guy also works really well if you're going to be pumping attack in any way. He's not on my list, but I could see how he could work in one of those aggro decks.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if he's good enough to see play, but it just like kind of stuck out to me as something that's potentially decent.
Yeah.
Like I think it's probably worse than Godfrey, but anyway, go on.
Yeah, my list has Godfrey.
Sure.
As the first card. That's the 7 mana 4/4 Battlecry. Deal 2 damage to all other minions. If any die, repeat this Battlecry. So it is like a doubled up Defile.
Yeah.
So that seems really strong, like a good way to clear the board, and you get a 4/4. I think that very frequently you'll be able to kill one thing with 2 damage, and then from there you will often be completely clearing the board. You can use things like Mortal Coil to help you set up with it, and you also get a body out of it. So I think that it's got a lot of strength for the Control Warlock decks, which are doing really well right now. So there's a good chance it's going to be good.
To me, this looks like, and this is obviously exaggeration, but to me it looks like 7 mana 4/4 Twisting Nether. Like, that is, except, it leaves behind the 4/4. It's really good. I mean, if you think about, like, Defile is often killing a lot of stuff. It's not really that hard to set up Defile, and this is so much easier to set up.
Yeah.
Like, if you just look at, many, wide boards where your opponent develops a bunch of minions, just imagine casting Defile, but it dealt 2 damage. Like, everything is going to die. Even, like, the Crystal Lion is going to die,
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a good card. Like, it seems like what it's going to do most of the time, like a vast majority of the time, is just kill everything and leave you with a minion. And cards that do that are really good. Cards that, kill stuff and develop bodies, something we've talked about repeatedly, those cards are good.
Yep, particularly in Hearthstone, and then this has a deck that it just slides right into. The Control Warlock deck is barely losing anything in the rotation, and it would love to have a sweet Yet another difficult to play around removal for the board. So that just seems like it's going to be great. Lord Godfrey, and then I also have Ratcatcher.
Interesting.
I like
All
this
right.
guy. So
You're
this
gonna have to sell this guy to me.
this is a 3-mana 2/2 with Rush. As Battlecry, destroy a friendly minion and gain its attack and health. Ancient Watcher. Ancient Watcher is a 2-mana 4/5 that can't attack.
Right. Oh, hey, look at that.
So that's sort of that's the main reason I'm excited for Ratcatcher, because I want to do that to someone. I want to turn 2 play a 4/5 that can't attack, and turn 3 eat it and attack with a 6/7 Rush.
So yeah, that's pretty interesting. I mean, a point against Ancient Watcher, which is a card that Warlock has historically run, is that we're actually losing Molten Giant completely.
Yeah, but I'm okay with that.
Sure.
It's unfortunate, but ultimately Mountain Giant, I think, are gonna just be fine with that. I'm actually more disappointed that we're losing Faceless Shambler, because the kind of deck that would want to run Ancient Watcher and, of course, Humongous Razor Leaf, which is also insane with Ratcatcher. You get a 6/10 rush rather. If you eat your Humongous Razor Leaf. So there's Ancient Watcher and Humongous Razor Leaf is like ridiculous targets for Ratcatcher. And you can also just use Defender of Argus with those cards as well. You can use Spellbreaker with those cards. You can use Shadow Flame with those cards. What'd you say?
Sun Fury Protector also.
Yep, you could just use Sun Fury Protector. So those are cards. Ancient Watcher has been in Warlock already. We've seen this happen before. This isn't completely unheard of. And then the synergy with Ratcatcher is like really filthy. It's like completely disgusting.
Yeah, so that's nice, because I was when I saw this card, I was thinking like, well, the only sacrifice effect that has ever really seen play is like, or that has seen wide play, is Carnivorous Cube, and that's because you end up actually just duplicating it. So then I thought, like, okay, well, this is not doing that. In a way, you're sort of just like eating it, putting it in your thing, and like I guess the Void Walker saw fringe play and like Egg Zoo and stuff like that, which did something similar, but. Yeah, so okay, so that card saw a little bit of play, so I guess this one may. But the fact that you can sort of convert that sacrifice to stats means you don't even like really lose the stats on the minion you sacrifice, much like Voidwalker, and I guess with something like Ancient Watcher, that is quite good. And Rush is awesome.
Yeah, my mind immediately went to that degenerate, ridiculous world that might not really happen. But if you think about it also, like if you have a 3/3 and you attack with it, and then you play Ratcatcher and sacrifice it, you kind of get to attack with that 3 attack again that turn.
Right.
So you kind of actually get to double up on your minion stats.
Yeah, Rush is really good. That could take this over Voidwalker.
So now that guy, whatever it's called, Void Maw thing.
That's not Voidwalker, yeah.
It was much better because there's power overwhelming.
Oh yeah,
Ratcatcher is also much better with power overwhelming, and that's going to be a thing in Wild for sure. So I don't think Ratcatcher just ubiquitously goes into Zoo decks, but it seems like there could be this silly control deck that uses cards that give Taunt and Silence effects and Shadow Flame along with Ancient Watcher and Ancient Razor Leaf. You can also maybe use some eggs, like popping the 0/3 egg is pretty cute with this, getting a 2/5 and a 5/5.
Sure. Oh yeah, the double sword egg, right? Yeah, so Void Terror is the card we were talking about, not Void Walker. I'm sorry I said that. Yeah, Void Terror. But anyways, that's a good comparison. But yeah, I agree. Like being able to cheat and get like attacks twice out of this thing is good. The deck where you're running a bunch of Humongous Razor Leafs and Ancient Watchers, it's not totally clear to me that the benefit you're getting from that, where you're making giant taunt walls and shadow flaming for really large amounts, it's not clear if that is any better than cubing.
Right.
But it, in that kind of deck, Ratcatcher could do potentially good. It's a way to capitalize on those resources if that deck comes, back into flavor.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, because that could be relevant next year.
Yeah,
So
we'll keep an eye on this guy. It's definitely really strong.
yeah, it's a powerful effect. It's a good. It seems like a reasonable sacrifice outlet.
And I'm glad
So
that
next,
they've made more good sacrifice outlets. That's fun.
yeah, I think so too. I was sort of disappointed that those haven't really seen play, but I think that the Hearthstone designers are kind of still trying to figure out what the best way to make the sort of suicide deck. Like what resources can you reasonably sacrifice?
Mm-hmm.
And I think life total is the obvious one, and I'm glad they started going in that direction, because that's just one of those things that so many decks are really happy to convert their life to value, and making Warlock especially good at it is wonderful. But sacrificing minions is a little bit harder to make good, but I'm sure there's design space where it is.
Yeah, I think they're doing a good job with it so far. Cards like Possessed Lackey make it much better.
Yeah, for sure. So next up we have Warrior.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how do you even pick two?
I know, I was so happy about that. I was like, wow, this is hard for the first time in a really long time.
Yeah, I know, there's we don't have to pick stupid cards. There's just insane cards now, which is so good. They're all really awesome.
Yeah, the past few reviews, it's like, alright, we're in Warrior. What did you decide to just throw in there?
Yeah, right.
But no, these were some meaningful decisions. This is tough.
Yes. Yeah, it was really hard to identify the best two. But so what did you land on?
My first pick is Town Crier.
Oh yeah, not close. That card is gross.
Wee! I'm gross. Wee!
I can't wait to hear the battle cry, because we're gonna hear it a lot.
Oh my god, so often. Okay, so Town Crier is a 1-mana 1/2 with Battle Cry. Draw a rush minion from your deck. So at first it might seem underwhelming because just 1-mana 1/2, but it always gives you a card. The card is pretty much always going to be really good, and it's always going to be relevant immediately. You get to build this consistency. You know what rush minions are going to be in your deck, and he's only 1 mana. So if all of your rush minions cost 2 and 3, when you play him turn 4, you're always going to be able to play what you got. He's a cherry on top. It's not like he's he's just a 1/2. It's more like, oh wow, my rush minions are gonna come with a 1/2 also.
Yeah. Patches.
It's sort of patches so you're just gonna be able to play this guy and get another card. So it's a 1/2 minion for a really great price plus another minion. That's just really good. That's not on its own, that's fine, but also, since it's a 1/2, it's going to synergize with Battle Rage and Armor Smith and all the things that Warrior does that damages minions. And it also is going to make the other card I picked, which is Woodcutter's Axe, much more consistent. There's just, the amount of consistency that he gives Warrior is really kind of insane. Normally, if you wanted to have a deck that frequently has this kind of card, it frequently has a rush minion, for example. You you'd pick a couple of the best ones, but to fill it out, you might need to take some medium ones. Instead of picking medium ones, you can just play 2 Town Criers and have more of your best ones. And I think that's huge. I think that's going to make Warrior really consistently really strong.
Yeah, so it seems I agree with you. I mean, it seems like there's just a lot of really awesome rush minions.
Mm-hmm.
I see even just in Warrior, forgetting the neutrals for a moment, I see Red Band Wasp is good, Militia Commander is good, Darius looks good. All of these cards look strong to me, even Rabid Worgen.
Dude, that's my honorable mention, to show how ridiculous these cards are.
Yeah, it's really just, these are all strong. So Town Crier looks like, yeah, the consistency argument is good. And what's nice is that even if you aren't necessarily consistently pulling out the same minion, which maybe you will be in some decks, you are going to be consistently pulling out a good minion, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, a good card to compare this to is Firefly. Firefly is 1 mana 1/2, draw 1/2, and that card saw tons of play. This is 1 mana 1/2, draw a real card. This is Firefly. When is that bad? It's bad on turn 6 when you don't have good plays in your hand and you draw it. That sucks, because then you get 2 1/2s and those do nothing. This draws you a real card.
Yeah, this is never like that. It's just always good.
Yeah, it's just you're always getting the upside. The only thing that this is worse at is triggering combo, but warrior. So
Cat
that's
Rosh trying to
fine.
trigger combo. Do I use Gore Howl to trigger combo? No, you
So
don't use Gore Howl to trigger combo.
it's yeah, this card to me looks like really, really amazing.
Yeah.
And it has the makings of an aggressive deck. And I mean, there's already like a bunch of good one drops in neutral that warrior can play, including Firefly. So
Yeah, 2 Firefly, 2 Town Crier, Rush minions, Woodcutter's Axe, GG. That
yeah,
looks
Woodcutter's
like
Axe.
a deck already.
Woodcutter's Axe was your second, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean that card's obviously good. That's like we've been waiting. This is just it's been a matter of time. They gave us Bladed Gauntlet because they're sadists, but Woodcutter's Axe is really what we've been waiting for.
So this is my other pick, and I don't even know if this is better or worse than Town Crier. I'm gonna go with slightly worse, but it's really good, and Town Crier makes it much better. It is a 2-mana weapon. It's got 2 power, 2 durability, and it has Death Rattle. Give +2/+1 to a random friendly Rush minion. So that's 2 power and 1 health. I mean, getting health is sweet, getting the power is sweet, and like you're giving it to a Rush minion, so that means it's gonna attack. Like the mech, there's a weapon in Shaman that has Death Rattle, give a mech +2/+2 or something. That one is not nearly as like spicy because that mech might not ever attack. Woodcutter's Axe, it seems like you're just gonna play it turn 2 and kill one of your opponent's guys and keep some tempo, and then turn 3 or 4, play some rush guy, attack with your axe, and then your rush guy will get pumped, and then attack with your rush guy and kill his... I mean, it's just gonna, like... It doesn't seem like Magical Christmas Land. It seems like it's actually gonna happen really frequently, and that's a huge tempo swing. And Town Crier is just like turn 1 Town Crier, turn 2 Woodcutter's Axe. Get ready! Get ready!
Yeah.
It's coming! It's gonna be happening!
It seems like there's just a lot of really good rush minions, so Woodcutter's Axe triggering often is like not, it's not like every minion in your deck needs to have rush. That'd be insane. But like if you have just 8 or 6, that's probably enough to make Woodcutter's Axe like good, and there's definitely enough to support that here.
Oh yeah.
I mean, so Town Crier was my first card because I think that card's just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
But my second, it's really hard for me. It's between Red Band Wasp and Militia Commander. I think I have to go with Wasp.
Yeah, they're both so good.
Yeah, I think that both are awesome. The reason, probably the only reason I'm not picking Militia Commander over Wasp is that a Gorkon Elite exists.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're playing both. But, Wasp is just... so this is another rush minion. It's a good one, too. Wasp is 2 mana, 1/3 rush, has 3 attack when it's damaged. So Enrage, plus 3 attack. It's a beast, too. So, there's a world where you play Woodcutter's Axe, then you can play the Wasp, and then, on the following turn, and then, attack with the Axe, pump the Wasp, then hit something, and, you just have a massive Wasp
on
turn
God.
3. And, maybe you're burning 1 mana, maybe you're not. Maybe you have a Firefly token to play. It's just, this card seems really good. It's a 2-drop. And I think that the Warrior aggressive deck probably doesn't want to run Kelesith if it has access to Wasp and Woodcutter's Axe.
Right.
So, it seems really, really strong to me. This will be a really interesting deck to see, especially in a world where Call to Arms is a card, and where Zoo Lock has access to all these really insane 1s and 2s. So we'll see how this deck shakes out, but it looks like they gave it a ton of tools.
Yeah, so the Wasp is only coming down with 1 attack, which is that was a big strike against it for me.
Sure.
But ultimately, I was you're gonna play with Town Crier, so it's actually just gonna come down on turn 2 so often in your deck, so that's gonna make it really consistently really good. It seems much more like an aggressive card than a defensive card because it only is going to really poke something for 1. It's kind of coming in to deal 1, so it can become big and threatening.
Yeah.
But when sometimes it'll kill something with the 1 damage, and that'll be nice. But then Woodcutter's Axe. Well, now wait a minute. Now the Wasp is going to come down as a 3/4. And so when you take the Woodcutter, that's why it's so hard to pick 2 cards, because when you pick 1, it's well, that one's good because of 2 other cards. And the Wasp, I think, is way better because of Woodcutter's Axe and because of Town Crier. But yeah, the Wasp is also nasty. You just have this way of interacting, possibly killing a minion for 2 mana on the second turn, and then also getting a big body.
Yeah, it seems insane. I mean, overall, like, I think the rush mechanic is really good. I think that like it maybe got undervalued as a whole. It's hard to know because we haven't played in a world where there's really widespread rush. But I think that it's like the counterpoint to taunt. I think this is going to see a ton of play. I think it's going to change how combat works in Hearthstone, especially in some matchups. And Warrior's really going to be able to take advantage of it. Just it allows you to play on the front foot for most of the game, and that's really strong.
Oh yeah, I mean, not only did Rush just sound good, but they printed a bunch of really well statted Rush minions, and cool cards to go with them. Like I said, I have an honorable mention in Rabid Worgen, which is just a 3-mana 3/3 Rush. It's like not exciting. It's a common, but like compared to Bash,
Yeah,
like you
sure.
can just pay 3 mana and deal 3 damage. Like that's good. Like that can be really great a lot of the time. But if you're killing something with 2 or less attack, you're also getting a body. And like if you played Woodcutter's Axe and attacked with it turn 2, this is actually going to be a 5/4 Rush.
Yeah,
Like,
that's gross.
It's just unreal. I think Militia Commander and Core Chrono Lead are both really good, but Rabid Worgen might actually be better than both of them.
You might be right. Militia Commander's stats just look so insane.
Yeah,
but
Militia Commander is a 4-mana 2/5 Rush, Battle Cry. It has +3 attack this turn, so it's a 5/5 Rush for 4 mana.
yeah, that's really gross.
When it comes out, it's gonna kill anything, and it's gonna live.
Yeah, I think it looks like Warrior has a deck. Again, not clear whether it's going to be a top tier deck, but it looks like it has the makings of something really strong.
Mm-hmm.
And future sets will. I think they sort of learned their lesson, and they're taking Warrior in a direction where they're giving it playable cards. I do think that the Year of the Mammoth was a really hard lesson for Blizzard in terms of what kinds of effects they could design, because like they're learning with us,
Yeah.
Their internal testing team is way more forgiving than the latter is. So because just it has to be by design. You don't have thousands upon thousands of players trying to break the game. So it's nice that they're, rather than giving us synergies that end up requiring a ton of setup and mana and aren't actually that good, like damaging your stuff or free shaman, anything like that. They're giving us some obviously strong, board centric aggressive cards. These will definitely take this class into the playability range.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see. I mean, that's everything. That's all the classes.
Yeah, the Woodcutter's Axe actually reminded me of a neutral card to maybe go back in a circle, have a nice circle. We've been talking about Warriors is probably going to be this tempo deck, aggressive deck. I think that's most likely what's going to be great in Warrior. It's also really it'd be cool if there were some sort of control deck, maybe with Baku, maybe without. But the Rush is actually still really good if you're playing Control. I think even if you're playing Control Warrior, you probably want to play Militia Commander. Just blasting their guy is really good. And then having cards like Town Crier is really good, and Rabid Worgen, and then at that point you can use Woodcutter's Axe. So I think there is like also a shell for Control Warrior, which is just kind of using some Rush minions sort of as its removal, and it's still essentially playing Control. And a card that could be interesting in there is Vicious Scalehide. This is another really cool neutral Rush minion. This is a 2-mana 1/3 Rush Lifesteal.
Oh, that guy, yeah.
So imagine turn 2, you swing with your axe, and then turn 3, play this guy, and make it a 3/4 Rush Lifesteal in your control deck? That's filthy.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems good. It's a cool mechanic because of its flexibility. Like, I think it gives a lot of the neutral Rush minions give a bunch of classes access to an effect that they just like didn't have, a bunch of decks access to an effect they didn't have.
Dude, I'm ready for the set. They gotta release it now.
Yeah, I really just don't want to play Murloc Paladin anymore.
Yeah, I've not really been playing. I'm ready for this to happen.
Yeah, same. It'll be exciting, but I think that's a good place to wrap it up.
yeah, we hope that you guys liked our assessments, and we would love to hear about how wrong we are about stuff, and if you enjoyed it. If you got any cards that you think are really spicy that we missed, please let us know.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. If you feel like you disagree with any of our evaluations or like feedback on the format, we're interested in that too. We're always happy to revise our set review format to something that sort of works for us and you guys. Full set review is probably out of the question, but this is actually pretty close. I think we cheated a bit on our 2 minions per.
We ultimately
so
did
fun.
cheat here and there, but they were worth cheating for.
I agree. So if you to give us feedback on our format, you can find us on Twitter at twitter.com/lastturnhs or facebook.com/lastturnhs. You can find us on iTunes or Google Play if you want to listen to our podcast. You can also find us on soundcloud.com/lastturn. You can find us on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel where we upload our podcast in video format if that's your preferred format.
Mhm.
You can find links to all of these places on lastturnhs.com.
Oh, yes.
So come check us out. We again tell us what you think about our set review. Please tweet at us. Tell us what did you agree with? What do you disagree with? What did we miss?
Yeah, we would love to hear your opinion. That way we can tell you that it's wrong.
And then we can be wrong later, and you can say I told you so. That's gonna feel so good. So just take advantage of that value. Don't leave it on the table.
Those will be some tasty Witchwood apples.
A rotten apple baum. But we will catch you guys in the Witchwood next turn.
See you next turn.